Okay, we'll start and now we'll go. Welcome to this call-in show. We want to talk to you about whether MAGA sucks or it is the shit. I don't think that it's so good. I wouldn't put it in my neighborhood, but maybe you can call me today and convince me that I've got the wrong way. This is the show and you call in. The phone number's 336-543-2101. This is the show and you call in and we talk about why you believe the things you do and whether or not they pass the smell test. I don't think they will. Okay, let's start the show. That was very confident. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Calling It Now. I am Jimmy Snow. We will be joined very shortly by Luxander as we get going and get started and start talking to people about why they believe the things they do. If you are a MAGA or a theist or a Republican, a conservative, you are anti-socialist, you are anti-queer issues, trans issues, if you think that it is based to cancel your Netflix subscription all because Elon Musk told you to, then right now would be the time you would want to call. Like right now is when you want to call. Forrest Valkai is trying to call me right now for some reason. Let me just say, like, you literally called as I went live. I could have said that as a voice thing. I could have waited 10 seconds. You literally called as I went live over on Calling It Now. ... What's up? Question mark. Smile emoji. I do that to seem less abrasive. I understand if you add an emoji, you can convince people you're less autistic. It apparently helps. It apparently helps. That's what I hear. I am hearing this. This is what people are saying. That phone number is up there. We've got a call screening right now. We'll take a look and see what that is. But if you are joining right now, first thing we want you to do is go ahead and click that like button. It is there. And so we can gather more people. Look, nobody here likes doing this. Click like, click subscribe. But every time you click something, that's actually like a little point of algorithm and it suggests things. In fact, it even works. I don't know if we have the merch shelf set up on this right now, so don't worry about it in a second, but it even helps if you click the merch shelf, even if you don't buy stuff. It's all algorithm. Everything is algorithm. So go ahead and click that algorithm and click that algorithm booster, click the likes and all of that. Let's go ahead and start a poll real quick and find out who's MAGA. Who's MAGA? And then you can write me or not me. We'll just get a general sense of who we've got in the chat right now, because I will be very excited to talk with y'all about why you believe what you believe and whether or not those beliefs are warranted. Let me get a little hit of my salt water. And by that, I literally mean salt water. It is water with a little bit of Redmond salt. If you think of an energy drink, but with no sugar, no flavor, no artificial sweeteners, that's what it is. It's just water with a little bit of Redmond sea salt added for electrolytes. I was going through my Magic the Gathering Spider-Man cards before this. I think I got a reseal. I did get like 2 mythics, but they're like really bad mythics. They're not that good, but you know, it is a cool set. So like even the regular common cards end up being kind of cool. Romantic Rendezvous, like everything's just kind of cool out of this set. It's neat. All right. Let's see. You can call that phone number. What are the initial results of that poll? We've got some MAGA in chat. MAGA, we want you to call. That phone number is on the screen. It's 33654-321-01. 336-543-2101. Easy to remember. Also easy to type. And I'd like to remind you all that you have said, I've seen it, now that Charlie is dead. I'm going to keep saying this. I know it annoys people, but, well, what's the downside? I keep hearing, and I keep seeing on threads, I saw it again today, someone saying, killing Charlie didn't silence Charlie. It created 10 million Charlies. Well, allegedly, a Charlie is a person who is willing to come and have these conversations with us, is willing to talk to us about whether or not they're right or wrong. And supposedly, allegedly, according to his little banner anyway, would also be somebody that is willing to be proven wrong, put their stuff through the smell test. And so if that's you, we want to talk to you. But a reminder to those in chat, if you want to help, every time you click something, you click like, you can help us get this out to more people and potentially help us gather more people. I think Luxander has arrived. If my producer can just verify they see Luxander and bring them onto the screen, we'll get Luxander in here.
Hi.
And yo, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. We did not get enough spicy callers today on Takis, so I'm hoping that we can turn things around with calling it now today.
Usually it is the case that we do. It's funny because I see the person who has called in so far. By the way, while a lot of the reason why your title today, your title claim that we're willing to take on challenges to is trans related is because we have a trans person here. The novelty of that, talking about them with them, is a little sad. How novel a concept that is. But also you can call about any leftist issue if you're pro-life. I'd love to hear somebody who's better than Tyler was on Tuesday. Somebody who can actually make like a well-reasoned pro-life. For those of you who maybe don't remember, earlier on Tuesday, a caller named Tyler called in and said multiple times, I already gave you evidence. And I said, what was the evidence? And he said, science and logic. And I was like, no. But what is the evidence? He goes, that's the evidence, science and logic. And I was like, wait. You can't just say. And so then I was like, and so by then I had already given him several points and bits of evidence against this thing. And so then I just resorted to it too. No, you're wrong because of science and evidence. And he had the audacity to go, that's not how it works. No shit, Sherlock. No shit. And there was even a person in the comments that very much confused me, who was like, Tyler did offer you evidence. Just because you didn't listen doesn't mean he didn't. And so then I said, list the evidence he gave. And even that commenter wrote science and logic, to which I wrote exactly. So either the person was being silly or Tyler was the commenter. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. Interesting things going on. Obviously, the government is shut down. We'll potentially be having a government employee on soon. We'll see if they get through the Republicans claiming that they will be reopening the government, that they're going to have all the votes they need by Friday, that they're going to have enough Democratic defectors, which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, they have finally a point of leverage after complaining they have no leverage. And would it surprise me at all if they were like, yeah, but we're going to just not take that. John Fetterman up there just being like, oh, but what if we just never negotiate? We just wait for our term and let them do an unlimited amount of damage in the meantime. But it's cool because I said it with a hoodie on. Fuck John Fetterman and the stroke that ruined him. I assume that's what ruined him. People could be either way. Anyway, that's all happening. We'll see what happens. Donald Trump now just openly admitting he actually is familiar with Project 2025 and stoked about it. We had a caller just we had a caller just the other day saying, well, Donald Trump wasn't pro 2025, Project 2025. Well, today on True Social, Trump announcing that he is invited to the White House, Russell Vought, and he says in it, of Project 2025 fame, to come and basically tell him during the shutdown what things who to fire and what agencies to shut down while he has the extra power to do so, basically to keep it consistent with Project 2025, who he would like to have basically trying to say like, hey, so Democrats, now that you're letting us do this without any interference, we're going to go ahead and just do Project 2025. We already knew this. The FCC chair 2 weeks ago admitted that this has all been Project 2025. Taking Kimmel out was a Project 2025 act. He already admitted it on Twitter. So like, we already knew this, but now Donald Trump isn't even pretending that all of those things he said on the campaign trail weren't lies, as he was saying, these people that did Project 2025, they are very right. They are extreme right. They are way out there. I don't know anything about it. It's wacky and I don't know. And I don't want to know anything about it. is what he would say. I'm sorry. Some of that went on because I could hear I was a little off. So a lot of that was just
You were trying to
calibrating
tune
my
it in.
impression. Yeah. This was me with I've got the guitar thing. Frankly,
Exactly.
you know, if she weren't my daughter, I'd probably be dating her. Isn't that so funny? All right, I think we're back. I think E minor, is that what it needs to be on?
No, it's A
Let's go
minor.
That's where he'd like to be. Isabel in the United States. You are on the line. You only said U.S. Isabel, did you think if you give us the state you're in, that'd be too much information?
You guys would track me down and hit me with a drone strike. I know how Americans are.
By the state? I don't think you do know how Americans are.
I'm just kidding.
That's all good. All right, Isabel, I can't tell from the thing that you're saying. Are you calling to debate or are you just calling to make a point?
I'm not 100% sure because I've heard some of you on there take a slightly different position on this issue. So it's like kind of a debate, but I mean, we'll see. You guys might disagree with me once it's all laid out. So who knows? But
okay, go ahead and lay it out.
Sure thing. So I don't consider sex and gender to be like these wholly distinct categories because I don't think sex is prediscursive, right? I think that like the creation of the binary categories of sex involved connecting with gender, which then informed this what we use to what sex is. So and the contention isn't with sex as like the signified, as in like, I'm not saying that there's no biological distinctions in human beings. I'm saying that there's like the act of categorizing them into male and female is already like part of gender, in my opinion.
So your point is that you don't think sex and gender are distinct concepts, correct?
I don't think that they're distinct in the way that like gender is what's between your ears and sex is what's between your legs. Like to put it.
So what is sex?
Simple, yeah.
Then what is sex? Define it, please.
So, sure. Sex is a socially contingent categorization system where human biology is classified into a binary category. I don't think sex, as in the biological traits people have, are actually binary because we have intersex people, trans people, alter sexual characteristics as well, that sort of thing. So, but as a sort of like societal building block of maintaining the current way society works.
Do you feel like you could pull this down to a single sentence instead of needing a paragraph, like just a clear, distinct definition of sex?
I think I understand what she's saying. Sure. I want to try to restate it back to you, Isabel, and you can tell me if this is right. Are you basically saying that you don't think gender and sex are different because the act of prescribing sex is a gendering behavior? Like the fact that we have created a binary sex categorization and that we put people into binary sex categorizations, because that is a social thing that we are doing, that's a social tendency. Yes, we are describing something biological, but because of the way that we categorize it, that means fundamentally that sex is a type of gender in that way. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. You could look to say like Judith Butler, and see like their explanation on it and things like that. I borrow from.
Okay, Isabel.
As well, so
then let's just skip to some more important things because there's a purpose of the show and I think we're maybe missing it, but maybe I'm the one who's wrong. Do you believe that trans rights are human rights?
Yeah, of course.
Do you believe that trans women deserve the same protection that women get from cisgender men? Do you believe that they deserve access to women's spaces, that they will be safer with that access to women's spaces because they are in more danger being forced into men's spaces?
I think as marginalized women, trans women probably deserve a modicum extra protection over what cisgender women already get.
Okay. Did you vote for Donald Trump?
No.
I don't know. Oh, yeah. I feel you, Isabella. You've got a point that you want to talk about, like the intricacies of, and I don't mean this in an unkind way. I don't care. This is not a useful conversation.
You should call us on Takis next week.
This show is. Yes, if Lux wants to geek out with you on that, I mean, as the person who owns the channel, I hope you guys don't go too long if there's debate calls on. That is more, again, there's still a purpose to all of this. But Isabel, this sounds like a super interesting conversation to have in a coffee shop and talk about the intricacies of, but it doesn't sound like there's anything that's like, one, urgent that we agree on, or two, our agreement will in any way affect changing the minds of fascist and the rise of fascism in America. Is that all fair to say?
Yeah, I suppose. Well, I didn't think you would necessarily care about it, Jivy, to be honest, but that's okay.
Good enough.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I will call in and talk with Lux. I guess like the main thing which concerns me is occasionally I see people banding around the concept of like trans women are like male women, which is something which I don't really do.
Hate that.
Like,
Hate that.
Yeah, there can be like a degree of like psychological harm that happens to trans people when they conceptualize themselves that way. So I guess
I just don't want to spend a lot of time on like fighting pedantry. What ultimately is going to be pedantry, and their pedantry is going to be bigotry based a lot of times, where it's important to them to make that distinction. But at the end of the day, I just feel we have such bigger fish to fry, and there's a fiscal conservative waiting on hold right now, and I'd like to probably hop to that call.
Yeah, that's fine. Go for it.
Thank you, Isabel.
Thanks, Isabel.
It's really interesting. I appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'll try to bother you somewhere else, Lux.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's
Lux,
fine.
Lux, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Later.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
There we go. Sorry, and I don't mean to seem so...
And we do. I try to prioritize spicy calls. We do just get a lot of calls like that and advice calls. And I'm like, can we please get something spicy in here? And it just doesn't happen sometimes.
And I will say, like, this show is never even like the line. It is a little distinct from the line. We are looking. We have less room for non-debate.
We're here to throw down.
Yeah. So we're about to jump to the next call. Before we do, if you are MAGA and you'd like to call in and argue with us on any pro-MAGA position, we're probably against all of them. I'm trying to think of a MAGA platform, not a generalized, like everybody agrees. I don't know. Well, I would say that there shouldn't be lead in water, but I actually am not positive that MAGA universally agrees there shouldn't be lead in water, since I watched that old guy say like, well, if they can afford it with their property taxes, on that podcast with the guy who talks to his parents, his MAGA parents. And he's basically just like, fuck them all. And that's his podcast. That's what the dad's response is. Anyway, if you would like to call in and defend any MAGA position, we are here to talk to you about it. That phone number is on the screen. It stays on the screen. It's 336-543-2101. Super fun to dial. You just got to run down it's super fun. Try it. You'll love it. In the meantime, Tristan in Colorado, you are on the line with Jimmy and Luxander. I'm curious, when you say you're a fiscal conservative, what else are you? Because fiscally, that you just mean that you would like to spend, you'd like the federal government to spend less money, right?
Yeah, I can explain my point or where those views originated.
We might get, it's probably not. It's probably not necessary. It's more of just out of curiosity. Yeah, Tristan, how old are you? Just out of curiosity. You don't have to answer, but I like getting 30. Some of these in. 30?
Correct.
Socially, what are you? If you want to specify that you're fiscally conservative, socially, what are you?
I'm back and forth on a lot of issues. I would like to consider myself an independent for the most part. I have some views that might lean more towards the right and probably some views that might lean more towards the left.
So it sounds like we're not probably talking to an enthusiastic member of MAGA, but still someone who probably often votes Republican.
Member of MAGA, but I do have certain strong views that specifically what I called in for. I can give you a debate on that.
Go for
it. Transgender ideology in schools with children under the age of 18. What is your position on that?
The only thing I would define as transgender ideology and not laugh at the idea of using that term would be trans people wishing to be able to peacefully exist in society, and that's pretty much it. And so I would say I am super for that which you could actually call trans ideology. Luxander, trans person, would you like to respond?
I mean, yeah, that I guess is kind of the same sticking point that I have, is like, what do you mean by transgender ideology? Like, I don't necessarily feel like I was in any kind of ideological frame of mind when I realized that I was trans. So I'm curious what you have to say on that.
Sure. What I mean specifically about transgender ideology, I don't necessarily. Okay, what's the best way to put this? I don't necessarily believe that in any way it's wrong to be transgender. It's actually a very brave thing, and most transgender people have been through more than any straight person, and a lot of people of the LGBTQ community can't even understand. So I appreciate that very much. What I am asking, I guess, more so to clarify the question, would be, at what point does pursuing gender, I don't want to say gender studies, but gender ideology. Okay, let me pause for a second.
Is there some specific position or belief that you take issue with, rather, because you're having trouble finding like the word to sum up?
It's not the transition that I have an issue with at all. It's when children are involved with their bodies changing and being affirmed that they are what they believe they are.
So you believe that people spontaneously become trans when they turn 18?
No, that's not the case. No.
What does it look like when you say they're being affirmed? So let's go with an example, because you were saying when their body's changing. So let's just go with a 12-year-old boy has had suspicions that they relate more to the experience of women. They're feeling wrong about certain things, and they're experiencing a level of distress that we'd call gender dysphoria. They express that to an adult as they're starting to see their body change. They're basically expressing, maybe not in those terms, depending on if they have the education. What does the adult do in that situation that you believe is happening now that they shouldn't be doing? And it's happening in school specifically.
Well, what has come out, I can't cite a specific example, so you can take this for what it is. But what we've seen in the media is that there are teachers and psychologists and psychiatrists within schools that are...
That's all true so far.
Affirming cares, okay, fair enough, right? That are affirming care for individuals at that young age where their bodies are changing, and putting in ideology within their head that they are what they believe they are, and that's okay to feel that way. When, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, that should not be happening until, especially with gender affirming care, should not be happening until they have at least their frontal lobe developed 85%. 75%?
That never stops.
So 18?
There's a study that says that prefrontal cortex development stops at age 25. That's because the study stopped at age 25. But this is such a bullshit argument that you probably are not like deliberately making it, Tristan. Maybe this is just something that you heard, but like there is no like developmentally appropriate age at which suddenly you can make these decisions about yourself. I'm sure you've met people who are 18 years old who are huge dumbasses, and you're like, oh my God, you can sign a mortgage. And you've met people who are much younger, and you're like, these people are like, a 16-year-old who's like getting emancipated and now already has their shit together. And like even people in our 30s who don't have their shit together, right? So like there is no developmentally appropriate like age for this. And it's really arbitrary where we decide to put the line, where like you agree that people don't spontaneously become trans at age 18, but you also are basically saying, I do not believe someone about them being trans if they are younger than 18, or rather, I decline to allow them to pursue that if they're under age 18. And you also have not clarified for Jimmy, he's asked you a couple times, like, what does that affirming care look like? At what ages are you protesting?
Yeah,
before anything under 18 for hormonal care and surgery specifically.
Okay, so anything under 18, no matter what the care is, hormonal. And would you do that across the board? No child should be able to get puberty blockers across under 18?
Same thing that I would say no child should be able to take steroids.
Okay, so you do understand cisgender kids take both steroids and puberty blockers for certain conditions, right? Like precocious puberty, you would give no, not at all. Precocious puberty means you're starting to have puberty at 5-6 years old. That's too early. There are some risks with it, but a lot of mental health risks with it. And so we give them puberty blockers and let them wait until they're a little bit older to have the puberty at what is a more appropriate time usually. HGH is literally given to children who have a basically like a growth hormone deficiency. So as they're going through puberty, they're specifically not growing. They're not a little person. They don't have, I don't know if we still call it dwarfism. I have not kept up on the right terms for their community. But it's not a little person. It's a person who just isn't getting their hormones. And so we do give them steroids. I had to have steroids of multiple types growing up because of health issues. So when you say just blanket, I would give no child steroids or no child hormones.
Okay, when we're referring to steroids, obviously I'm not referring to like health care. I'm referring to
Tristan, you are though. Tristan, the thing
like is HGH, and also you're referring to 0.2% of the population in girls and 0.05% of the population in boys. When we're talking
and so
about
it's weird that some of you are claiming to vote on it. I agree that part's weird, but Tristan, and despite the fact that, as you say, the media is explaining to us that basically kids are going to school. Donald Trump said it. They send a kid off, Jimmy, I love you so much, and then a few days later he comes back having had a surgery and now he's had his parts all changed. Yeah, none of those things are happening, and we don't see the massive number of trans kids that people are pretending. But you're saying when we're talking about medical, the whole reason we're treating medical issues is because we're trying to treat medical outcomes, as in reducing things that lead to the overall lesser well-being of the individual. And when it comes to trans care, we know that giving children access to certain things, we do prohibit, like the physical surgeries, most of them that you are describing. You can't get gender reassignment surgery before you are 18, but things like puberty blockers, which is a delay and gives someone a level of time to think about things. And the fact that the regret rates on those things are much lower than the things you're describing, like medical necessary knee replacements and the like. It's basically just that you're sitting here and you're speaking definitively and you're going like, no, it's good to give those things to other kids. That way they have a better well-being, their mental health is better, and they don't die. But when it comes to trans kids, sure, their mental health care is better and they're less likely to commit suicide. But is death really a medical outcome when it comes to trans kids? But you can respond to that. Then I did have a different question.
Well, so what would you like me to respond to? Because you just said a lot there.
No, go ahead.
The entirety of that statement.
It's all basically the same point. But yeah, any part you would like. Go ahead and whatever your heart tells you should respond to.
Well, right. So, okay. When we're referring to the transgender community, it makes up less than 3% of the population of children, or youth specifically. And I believe that when children are exposed to different ideals, it becomes very difficult for them to discern what's reality and what's not. I am not bashing on trans people in any way whatsoever. I think they're the strongest people that most people, anybody who's had a real conversation with a trans person who's open and honest.
You know who's the strongest is trans kids who have to grow up in a society where people who have no idea what even goes into trans healthcare for youth assert strong opinions about it. My dude, like, I'm trying to be patient with this and I'm trying to, kind of carry the conversation through, but it's like really annoying that you have literally I've asked you and Jimmy's asked you, like, what does this entail? And you're basically just like, any hormones. Like, you do not know what age we start puberty blockers. You do not know the health impacts of puberty blockers, that the fact that, like, if you take them after Turner stage 2 of puberty, it literally doesn't fucking do anything. You do not understand the care needs that are elevated for trans youth who cannot access this care. Like, you realize that basically what you're saying is, I want all trans kids to have worse grades, to suffer and struggle making friends, to struggle with daily activities of living like showering. Because why?
Why do I want all trans kids to struggle with showering? Is the question?
I mean, the activities of daily living is how we refer to, like, people's ability to be functional in their daily lives. And this is how we measure distress. So when we're talking about a medical problem, which is what gender dysphoria is in our current framework,
Correct.
a medical problem where we have medical outcomes, you say you are okay with the supplementing of HGH steroids for certain medical reasons, but you are opposed to trans healthcare. And what I'm trying to bring you to the knowledge of is that trans healthcare is a medical issue. And if you are struggling, like if your mental health is so poor that your grades are suffering and you struggle socially and you're just like not hitting certain developmental markers the way that we want teenagers to hit those developmental markers, that represents a medical problem. And that's why we intervene medically.
So I have another question for you, Tristan.
Sure.
I'm a teacher. A child comes to me and describes gender dysphoria to me, but hasn't said the phrase yet. I know what gender dysphoria is. You said they should not be affirmed in that moment. So what should I say instead?
I wouldn't say they shouldn't be affirmed in a mental health stance. I am referring to the medical intervention specifically. And like you pointed out just before you started, sir, is that, I don't know if you prove your pronoun, so there you go. My apologies there. What I will say is this, is that when medical intervention comes into play, yes, obviously mental health is important. It is the most important. It's a big problem in our society, and that's period, point blank. But the problem becomes when children who don't know themselves you asked me a question. What would you say to a kid who came to you that is describing gender dysphoria without utilizing that verbiage? I don't have the answers for you, other than these people need psychology and they need therapy. They don't need medical intervention.
That's called conversion therapy. If you're saying that trans people, in order to treat their gender dysphoria,
that they need to be.
Hold on. Sorry, I know I interrupted you. I just feel a need to get in here.
No worries.
When people say that trans people need mental health care instead of physical access to transition, that's what you're saying is you want to deconvert them from thinking that they're trans. And like, I don't know that that's what you truly believe in your heart, Tristan, but if what you're saying is, hold on. What the natural implications of what you're saying is that, okay, well, I think this kid thinks that they might be trans, but I think that they're not. And so I want them to go to therapy instead of getting health care. Like that is because like ultimately the secret hope that people have is that they will desist from identifying as trans, where we know, and we've tried to treat it that way. We've given people therapy. We've given people antipsychotic medication. We've given people antidepressants. Like we have thrown everything at the wall, trying to do literally anything except give people trans healthcare. And it turns out that that is the answer to the problem, though. Like we don't need elevated amounts of mental health care if we are just given access to our bodies. Like that cis teenagers who are not trans can just grow up developmentally and worry about normal things like who they're going to take to prom and the test that they're taking on Friday, where like trans kids simply do not have access to the fullness of their lives because arbitrarily cisgender people who do not know what it's like to grow up as trans have decided to basically patronizingly say like, well, I don't feel comfortable with you doing this, even though it's your body. So I'm going to tell you that you can't do it.
Yeah. So Tristan, I guess I'll just ask you another question and we'll just follow through. Once again, what you're saying is how you would do it. Person comes to me, I'm the adult, they express gender dysphoria. I know the word gender dysphoria, but I don't, in this case, affirm them. You said that's not necessarily wrong, but it's not right either. They need to get into therapy or see a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. So I do that. I connect them to a therapist. The therapist agrees they are experiencing gender dysphoria. Now, what should the therapist do different? Because right now, the prescription for gender dysphoria in many cases is transition. And so when it comes to this child, if they've spent time with a therapist and they can see that this is genuinely following all the markers that you would expect out of a person who needs to transition, they will know that that child's outcomes are likely going to be much better if, one, we give them puberty blockers so that they can make decisions when they are older about transitioning and not have the effects of having gone through, we'll call it the wrong puberty for lack of a better phrase at the moment. And then or go on puberty blockers. So, hey, we actually need a little time to figure this out. We need to talk it out more because there's other things we need to address and make sure that those identity issues aren't at play. But the good news is if we put you on the puberty blockers and we take 3 months, 6 months, whatever to talk about those things, we can just stop them there and it'll basically be like you never took puberty blockers with very low risk. Or what would be the option you're saying is better than those two options, Tristan, that is consistent with what we now know from the psychological world that's gone through rigorous testing, that has these recommendations for a reason? What is the superior thing to letting a child be on puberty blockers, which realistically is the only thing we're talking about here?
Well, a child being on puberty blockers causes significant issues from their physical health, and we all know that. There's not an argument there.
No, excuse me.
Physical health?
We don't all know that. As Luxa already pointed out, if you take puberty blockers,
their body significantly.
Sure, that's the point. By the way, Lux, you're muted. My body was changed significantly by the surgeries I did that had nothing to do with gender transition, right? So yes, medical care changes your body. This is like when people are like, they want to also use the term like, you do a mutilation when you get a sex change. Yes, so you do a mutilation when you get a liver transplant. Mutilation doesn't matter. So you're just using generalized term. When you're saying major changes, if anything, it's preventing the major changes of puberty that can make outcomes that a person who is trans would desire in their transition more difficult to achieve. And it's kind of a situation where I feel like a lot of people like you are saying, I want to raise the odds that when these people become adults, I already know they're statistically still likely to be trans. I want to raise the odds that I can clock every trans person because I'm afraid of being attracted to one. That's how I read it. I'm going to be honest, Tristan. That's what it sounds like to me.
I mean, I can understand that statement. What I will say is that's a very difficult thing to sit here and you know, put onto any single individual. Let's be honest. I mean, that's kind of a straw man argument in a sense.
I don't think it is. I think it's a broad argument that fits an Occam's razor position.
The reason
that I'm happy to begin at.
The transition is because they're afraid they're going to be attracted to them.
If people like you who sound like you've done a baseline amount of Googling that know enough that most of these kids who end up on puberty blockers, overwhelming, will still be trans as an adult, they don't change their mind. Detransition is an extremely small percentage of people. And even within that, we always talk about the detransitioners, but not then the retransitioners or the people who detransition but still think transition care should be accessible to everybody. Statistically, you are more likely to still be trans. And so your outcomes are going to be better as an adult if you don't go on the puberty blockers. So if you know that these numbers exist and you know, as you said, they're not bad for being trans, you know that this is going to be better for all of them, that outcomes are overwhelmingly going to improve, but you think that there's maybe a couple of cis kids that might get harmed by it. So we should harm all trans kids for the couple of cis kids instead of risking a couple of cis kids versus all trans kids. That's the calculus you do. Yeah, it does make simplest sense to me that people who are not trans and are against trans care feel emasculated by the possibility that other people may be able to live their true selves and have an inherent fear that one day they're going to be attracted to a woman with a penis.
I mean, I can... the way you articulated your argument, it's hard to argue with. Here's what I'll say about that. What I will say about that is that utilizing an argument that they're afraid to be attracted to a woman with a penis is a very difficult way to justify your argument there. It's not appropriate, and it's really not. What I will say
I just gave my justification.
Sorry?
I think I just gave my justification.
Say that one more time.
I think I just gave my justification. As is with Occam's razor is where you begin. It's not where you end. And Occam's razor, it is that does fit an Occam's razor test. So it would require some debunking against what is right now supportive evidence for that, which, I mean, you can literally see the supportive evidence across the spectrum of cis men freaking out when they find out Hunter, what's Hunter's last name? Is Schaefer. Hunter Schaefer is trans, and they're so angry that they were accidentally ogling a trans boob. It happens. She's hot. There's plenty of supporting evidence that it is, especially these people who have if we want to talk about ideologies, they pretend they have an ideology that can always spot trans people. And yet you have people right now, some of whom are in the chat, who are questioning whether or not I'm trans. Tristan, if you had to guess, what do you think? Trans or no trans? Have a look.
If you were trans or not?
Do you already know the answer to this question?
No, I don't. No.
Just have a look at me.
Do you want me to guess?
Yeah.
From
look at those cheekbones.
What's the best way to put it? I don't want to assume, but at the same time, sure. By the way you asked that question, I'm going to say yes.
Now, let's take it away from by the way I asked the question. Can you see the show?
Yeah.
Anywhere? Just look at me and tell me, if I didn't know you and I was just physically looking at you on the screen right now, would you guess trans or no trans?
No. I would guess no.
Interesting. I get a lot of people who think I look trans. It's interesting.
You got the riz.
Usually, people who meet me in person rarely do. I am 6'2", and so usually a masculine presenting 6'2" person doesn't get clocked as trans very often. But
now, can I ask you the question? Are you trans?
No, I'm not. It depresses me to say I'm not trans.
Be so much cooler.
Now, why does that depress you? What about not being trans is a depressing aspect for you?
Hey, Tristan, it was a joke. Comedy's legal now. It was just a joke. It was just a silly Billy Goose. Not only am I not trans, I would describe myself as stereotypically cisgender, except for the fact that I'll have sex with men. It's not really, that doesn't affect gender, but clearly it affects other people's sense of gender. I am bisexual, or pansexual, whichever you prefer. But it affects other people's sense of it. But that's how masculine I am. A gross, muscly man won't throw me. Actually, I'm not into muscle dudes. But I like to woodwork and ride horses and smell. I like to cut grass.
I want to ride a horse.
Masculine activities at that point.
What's that?
I said traditionally masculine activities is what
correct.
You're
and so now and I'm glad because I've had a thing on my list of questions I have for you. A cisgender person, a cisgender kid comes to a parent, a child, an adult, and describes that a boy, born male, born with a penis, to make it as clear as possible to anybody who could get pedantic with it, goes to an adult and is describing hey, I'm going through puberty and I'm getting really interested in things like lifting weights. I'm getting really interested in things like woodworking. I'm getting really interested in horseback riding. I would like advice on how to pursue this identity that I don't have a word for. Do we affirm their existence? That pursuing their masculine identity, pursuing their gender identity is okay?
I would argue the question as woodworking be their genuine or gender identity.
Woodworking isn't their gender identity. Pursuing the multiple things that are associated with masculine roles would be pursuing their gender identity. Absolutely.
Sure. So let me reframe the question then and ask you if some cisgender male were to come and say, I like wearing dresses and want to grow my hair out and dye my hair and wear nail polish and wear dresses, would that be something we should affirm? I would answer yes. But does that mean that
for sure.
they're a woman?
Could. It might not.
Because they have these interests that they are someone other than their biological makeup?
Tristan, I don't know if you think this is a trick question, but my friends are drag queens. I would literally say then go wear a dress, slay. And while you're wearing a dress, you want us to call you girl, we'll do that. But then if you want to go to your job at the weightlifting factory and whatever is the most masculine job these days. I do need to make a correction. Luxander in the chat said, associate horses with women, actually riders of Rohan. I meant good horseback riders. Okay.
I see. Okay.
That was a joke too, Tristan. It's cool. I can say that. Some of my best friends are sexist. I would affirm it, and I would affirm figuring out what that is, because it's not just that they come and say they want to wear dresses and stuff. Again, gender dysphoria isn't I want to wear dresses. Gender dysphoria is the distress. It's not the like dresses are fun. For the record, I don't want to wear dresses.
No,
I would
fair.
for charity, probably.
I agree with you, but it's the way that you asked your question that seemed a little disingenuous in that sense. Do you understand why I asked you that question and why I phrased it that way?
But I phrased it my way because from the onset, you said that they shouldn't have these things affirmed to them in school, and now you are saying they should. You've swapped your position.
I'm not saying they should have. Again, it has nothing to do with their intention or their activities that they participate in. It has to do specifically with the medical intervention. And I know that, I forget your name.
Luxander is the other person. I'm Jimmy, and Luxander is above me.
Hi.
Very good. So you mentioned earlier that I lost my train of thought. You mentioned earlier that you know what? I lost my train of thought, so I'm not going to continue that right now because I'm going to say something that probably wasn't true. So I apologize for that.
Let's see if we agree then. It's not that you aren't wanting them to affirm it. It's not that you don't want the best care for their well-being. It's that you don't want somebody on either side, and I would agree with this, on either side of that issue, to articulate it poorly. So I wouldn't want a MAGA person to lie about trans identities to that kid, tell them it's a phase, tell them this is stuff they have to get over, tell them the depression will pass and it's just getting through it. The way my dad said, not about my gender identity, but about my depression and what he didn't realize at the time was my autism, turns out wasn't a phase, and fucked me up because we didn't get autism affirming care. But anyway, I wouldn't want a MAGA person to say that. And I also don't want a teacher who, by the way, I don't think these teachers largely exist, except for you can usually find some example of an extreme, but someone comes to a teacher and says like, I kind of like painting my nails. And then they just get it in their head that this kid must be a trans girl. And they're going to go out of their way to convince them that they are a trans girl. I don't want either of those things to happen. But I think you will look across the board, the existence of the MAGA people telling people harmful things about their identities are not hard examples to find. And even if you can find an example of the teacher that I just described, she probably just needs corrective education. So if anything, this thing you're calling gender ideology, we need more of it in school because we need more teachers to have been trained well on gender identities, what information to share, when to share it. And when it comes to like just that trans people exist and that's okay, that should be in general sex ed. And then as far as giving advice that might start a child on their track of transitioning, they should know how to have that conversation initially that puts that child with a professional who is qualified to handle it. But by the way, fiscally conservative Tristan, this will also depend on other big changes like universal access to healthcare and mental health care.
That is a whole nother issue. I want to touch on your point.
It's actually real quick, and then you will, Tristan. When you say that's a whole other issue, 90% of the issues that MAGA have with the opposition and how terrible they think everyone is actually does come down to access to universal health care. And then a couple other things like housing and the like. Like we had somebody call the other day about the crime rates in South Korea where they have gun laws and universal health care, but he thought it was because, what was it? Why did he think it was? I know Charlie Kirk did a video too. Someone can remind me in the live chat what he thought was different, that we were doing wrong and why our crime was so high when in South Korea, where they have all these entitlement programs that we don't have, it's low, but it was the Democrats' fault. Anyway, I'm not a Democrat, but it's the Dems' fault. Go ahead, Tristan, I might have derailed you again, and I apologize if I did.
No, you're fine. I guess where we disagree on the more gender ideology within schools, I agree with the fact that we need more training for teachers to be able to address, and psychologists as well, within the schools and social workers and that nature. We obviously need to have more training for these people so that they can actually address it correctly. I disagree that we need more of it in schools. We need more of it in training for the individuals within the schools. So it's not, and I also believe, and this is where we're probably going to disagree. Excuse me. I don't believe that a single teacher has any right to talk to a child about any form of sex or gender or any form of any, and you can argue sex ed teachers and things of that nature, sure. But when did we all take sex ed? 8th grade, 9th grade, 7th grade, whatever it may be?
I had
These
sex
things
ed
are being taught
starting
a
in
lot
like
younger
second
now, and
grade
it's becoming confusing.
because
Yeah, I
we do
started in second
developmentally appropriate sex ed.
I started in
throughout
second or
the
third
years.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can remember the
I mean-
cartoon. They were anatomy cartoons mostly.
Yeah. You start out with just basic things like girls have periods, whatever, and then you move on to more complicated stuff as you get older. And yeah, by the time you're 14 and 15, you're talking about condoms. Okay, so first of all, I've noticed that there's two different things that you've claimed that you have an issue with. You claim on one hand that the thing that you really take issue with is medical intervention, but now you're also saying that you are against the idea of teachers, like when you say like they should never talk about it, that means that you think that we should not affirm trans kids. And what you're doing in that situation is, again, hold on. No, that is what you're saying. You're saying that we shouldn't affirm them. If you're saying we shouldn't talk about gender with them.
Stuff too, by the way.
Yeah. You talked about sexuality, which we're trying to stick on the gender thing, but like,
Sure.
Again, what you're doing, Tristan, is you are saying I am pro children's suffering, and you don't think of yourself that way. But what you are doing is you're saying we shouldn't give trans kids access to healthcare that demonstrably improves their lives with a fucking 1% regret rate. If the regret rate, hold on, let me ask you, if the regret rate for gender affirming care for minors was 0%, would you say that it's okay to give them the medicine that they say they need?
It's a tough question because it is. But here's I'll answer that question with a one-word answer, and that is tough. You're making it very difficult to have an argument here. The answer is yes.
It shouldn't be a difficult question because if the regret rate, let's look at it a different way. I'll frame it differently. I'll frame it differently for you, Tristan. I'll frame it in a way that maybe makes more sense. If the success rate for gender affirming care for minors was 100%, if every single medical outcome was a positive medical outcome, would you say that it's appropriate to give that care?
I would have to agree. I would have to agree that would be something that makes sense.
So if the success rate is 99%, do you think that we should give that health care?
96 to 97% is what it is.
Okay, well, the actual success rate is 99%. For gender affirming care for minors.
Transgender care, here's the problem that I have here. Okay, is that it ties back into a bigger argument of then the suicide rate within the transgender community and why those issues still are getting
mental health outcomes for trans people who have access to gender affirming care. Hold on, real quick. The suicide rate and self-harm rate for trans people becomes the same as the general population when they have healthcare and affirming people in their lives. We have the same mental health outcomes as soon as we address the trans problem. Like, yes, if we're treated worse, if we don't have family support, if we don't have access to healthcare, then the mental health issues are exacerbated. But when we receive trans healthcare, we become normal baseline mental health as everybody else.
Yeah, Tristan, it's easy to actually put this way, and you'll get it quickly. We'll switch to gay real quick. Why was it for so long, it may still be the case, I'd have to look, why was it for so long that in Utah, gay kids were killing themselves so much more than other places in the country? Not trans, but gay. Why was the suicide rate among specifically gay kids so high?
In Utah specifically?
Mm-hmm. Did you not know that?
Yeah, you asking specifically.
Yeah. Utah had like an abnormally high number of gay kids killing themselves.
I just don't have I don't have the data.
I think you could guess. It has nothing to do with the fact that this was even after Obergefell. This is after there is like more broad acceptance, though obviously queer people haven't been universally accepted, but theirs stayed really high because the state and the Mormons are still very anti-gay. So what you're describing is, as Lux just said, if you actually give people an accepting and affirming community and the care they want, they actually get to the same suicide rate as everybody else. But in America, do you know how hard that is to achieve? Go to Twitter, create a new Twitter account, brand new, use a VPN, use everything to make sure it can't track any of your cookies or guess who you are. And tell me how far you have to scroll from your new Twitter account to get to a transphobic tweet. It's going to be in the top.
A new Twitter account in a while, so I couldn't answer that question for you.
No, I'm telling you the exercise to go do. How hard is it to actually escape? As you already described, here is a thing that so few people it applies to. And yet, Republicans will hold policies hostage over whether or not trans kids get to do sports. They will constantly bastardize trans people. This tiny group of people who aren't hurting other people are getting absolutely reamed by a political party, and you want to sit there and go, but they have access to this care when they actually don't. When a lot of places they don't even have access to therapy, they don't have access to drugs, but they have access to this care. Why is their suicide rate still up in a country that fucking hates them?
If we're talking about Utah specifically, then I would obviously argue the more.
No, the whole country now. Utah was just about gay kids to illustrate the point that when it came to gay kids, it was because the community was so hostile that even amongst Mormons who are nice, smiley bigots, the hatred still came across, and children were too afraid to come out, and they would rather die than come out of the closet, or were teased too bad when they did come out of the closet and would rather die or go back to school. That was the example of why it's obviously community, not access, not broad acceptance, because laws have passed that protect somebody, because this was still happening even after gay marriage was legalized. It's about how the actual community treats you. America, broadly, at large, hates trans people. That's why their suicide rate is high here, but not in other countries that they just kind of exist in. They're just part of the population. Everybody goes about their day. Sorry, what?
What other countries are you referring to?
You can go with, go with Thailand. How's the suicide rate in Thailand for trans people who are more accepted there?
It's a great question.
I assumed you brought it up because you had an answer.
Well, I mean, you're referring to other countries, and we're talking about America, but I don't have the Thailand suicide rate off the top of my head.
Sure.
Right?
Where they're more accepted and they have community, it is less. In America, also, America may have. Is there a country that has a higher suicide rate amongst trans people than America?
I haven't looked into it.
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Sorry, ask that question one more time. Sorry.
I was asking Lux, but I'm going to look. I'm going to find it out for you. I would not be surprised. It would almost surprise me if there was a country. It'd probably have to be a small, bigoted country to where you have overrepresentation per individual.
I think the countries where that number would be the highest are going to be numbers where trans people's data is not collected, like Saudi Arabia or something like that.
That's sure. Yeah, sure. Though, weirdly, it's kind of one of those things where they'll never have had the language to even understand that that's what they were. So even if we did try to collect like we used to in the old days, they just get swept up as gay suicides.
Sure. Or that's if their families bury their information. There was a trans woman who was trafficked back to, I think, Saudi Arabia, and she committed suicide, and her parents buried her as a man. That shit happens.
Yeah.
Sure. And I'm sure individual cases happen everywhere, right? I mean, that's individualistic.
Yeah. But when we look at population data, what we see consistently is that when trans people, particularly trans youth, if there is only one affirming trans adult for a trans child, their suicide and self-harm risk drops by like 80, 90%. Like it plummets just with one affirming person in their lives. So, I mean, like honestly, Tristan, like I would say like look into the data on this. I don't know if that's going to help you get to a greater point of clarity. No, like here's some hot tips that you should know is like puberty blockers are only taken for 2 years. When you take them for only 2 years, they do not have any permanent effects on the body. They just pause puberty for a short time. That gives more time for a multidisciplinary medical team where the child is leading and saying, this is what I want. The parents are saying, we understand and are on board. We affirm that our child knows what's going on. Usually an endocrinologist, some kind of mental health professional, a primary care physician, all of these people across multiple disciplines working together for children who are persistent, insistent, and consistent with their identities. And we make them wait to get care. We say, oh, let's make double, triple, extra sure, which is why only like 1% of of youth who end up on puberty blockers desist from being translators. So like we make so many kids wait. The only ones who even get the care in the first place are the ones who like we're so certain beyond any possible doubt. And then yeah, we have like an almost 100% success rate because the standard is so high. So I just want you to know that it does not make sense to say let's raise the standard when it's already almost 100% effective at selecting the actual trans youth to receive this care.
Well, you know, at some point, I don't have the data in front of me, so I can't argue that. And truthfully, at the end of the day, I want kids to be happy. I want kids to be comfortable within themselves, and if that's what makes it, if that data is correct, then obviously there's no reason to not have that care. What I will say is that I have a specific individualistic example in my life where these things have happened to one of my friend's children. And it's not the only reason that I hold these beliefs, but it's definitely a contributing factor. It was confusing to children when they don't even know about themselves to then be told that they should be going in this route. And it, unfortunately,
nobody's doing that.
Harms.
Did you see somebody do that who said you should be trans?
Okay, maybe I used the incorrect verbiage.
I mean, it's an important distinction. If you want to say it's a possibility to a child, I don't think that's confusing. If you just say this is a possibility, which is why I disagree with you about the whole gender ideology in schools point, because all we're saying is this is a type of way to be a person. Anybody could be this type of person because it's just a normal type of person. And so when kids express this, we say, yeah, we are open to the idea of you exploring this. And that's it. Like no one's trying to funnel anybody into this. Many parents also share the feeling that you have, Tristan, where it's like, I would rather my kid not be trans because life is going to be harder for them. And it's a challenge. And maybe I don't agree with it in my beliefs. Like I've seen so many families have to go through difficult transitions as a family because the parents are conservative. So like there is no amount of telling kids you have to be this that will cause them to be that. If there were, there would be no such thing as trans or gay because our society does tell kids you should be cis. We say like, you are your body. You need to accept your body how you were born. Maybe not you, but I'm just speaking generally. And every movie has like a straight kiss, even the kids' movies. We don't do gay kisses in kids' movies. So yeah, there would be no gay or trans people if it was something that you could tell someone to be. Kids don't seem to find it very confusing any more than they find it confusing that their friend has two mommies instead of a mommy and a daddy. Like it just is concern trolling. Children are not stupid. They understand gender. They understand seeing themselves reflected in different groups of people.
I can agree with that statement 100%.
Cool. I feel like you've come around a little bit on this, and I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, no, of course. I mean, listen, I'm a realist. I'm no MAGA guy. I'm not sitting here hardlined on one side. I have concerns.
Yeah.
And like I said, because of that individual aspect, the individual example that I gave you with my buddy's child, yes, of course, that sparked some level of, maybe bias, you can say, right? But here's what I will say, is that I believe every kid should get the care that they need. I just have a very difficult time with changing their bodies at a young age. That's really my biggest
only for
argument.
This, though. We've already addressed it's only for this.
Bodies when they don't know themselves.
But again, it's only for this that you're opposed to changing their bodies, right? Like people have
not necessarily.
Kids have been getting gender affirming care who are cisgender forever, and none of you said a word about the things they were doing to make sure that they were growing hair, to make sure they were growing taller, girls were getting boob jobs at early teenage years, cis girls getting boob jobs, and people are not talking about that. Is it horrific, or is it just nothing? Is it just not a thing?
I have to say, too, that puberty is permanent. And so the reason why we support puberty pausing medication, that's what puberty blockers are, they pause it, is because the changes that you go through if you just let puberty happen are irreversible. Like they are irreversible. You know, the difference, it's like, let's say somebody is 13 years old and they identify as a boy and they were able to start puberty blockers on time. that kid does not now have to spend $15,000 on breast removal surgery and take 6 weeks off of work to recover. Like, that's bad for the economy. However, whichever way you split it, it's bad for the economy. As a fiscal conservative, I think you could appreciate not wanting to further line the pockets of big pharma and allowing people to be as successful as they can be in contributing to our economy. So it's also, like many thousands of dollars of surgeries that you have to do to reverse that change. So, I mean, if your ideological position is we shouldn't allow people under 18 to have permanent changes to their bodies, then the natural consequence would actually be give everybody puberty blockers for as long as possible to give everybody the opportunity to avoid irreversible changes.
Real quick, before you proceed, Tristan, I just want to make sure that we do a little call because we don't have people in the chat are saying they're going to call and argue, but they aren't calling in to argue. So just a quick call out to the chat. If you are listening right now and you are MAGA and you would like to argue, I'd really love to hear a good defense of pro-life, because the other guy, I think any of you watching today, if you had watched Tyler the other day, you would have agreed. We'd finally be able to come together on something because we'd both agree that Tyler was specifically bad at it. So if you want to call in and give an actual decent argument for the pro-life position, or you want to defend the shutdown and say the shutdown is actually the Democrats' fault and not the Republicans, if you want to call in and any real MAGA position, we would love to talk to you. That phone number is on the screen, 33654-321-01, and we will discuss your... I got to tell you, MAGA is unique in that even as a leftist, if I looked back to Bush era and stuff, I'm sure there are key policies from the Bush era that I could say I'm not actually opposed to that. That's just kind of like go ahead and do that thing. Or I would have at least thought we should try and sounded good in the moment, but then we saw how poorly everything went. Like the motivations for No Child Left Behind sound very nice. Until they did it. So anyway, you can call in and defend any of your MAGA positions, because it's unlikely I agree with virtually any of them that are exclusively MAGA. Anyway, Tristan, sorry if you were holding on to your response point there.
Well, here's what I'll say. Just to round off the conversations, and I hope you get some more callers in here who can defend themselves and actually have a debate with you guys. I do appreciate it, by the way. There seems to be a culture nowadays where people can't discuss arguments, especially arguments that are sensitive to them, and I find it very disingenuous for people to have such hardline stances without actually having any knowledge behind it. So I do appreciate.
Agreed.
Your conversation.
Your confidence should be proportional to your evidence. Yeah.
Sure, I agree with you, and not only that, I agree with that statement 100%. But I also think that people get so emotional when it comes to these issues rather than analytical. And
I think you should be both, though. Tristan, it's okay to be emotional about. I grew up with a family who made me worse because they weren't educated on autism and they were dicks about anxiety and depression. And so I think I actually think it's fine for us to sit in our emotions and have empathy for the children who are getting also fucked. But I agree that there is no argument that you can make on a purely emotional basis.
Right. And I feel that that's where, and if you don't have another caller, we can get into it. That's where I think the left goes wrong.
We've got some lining up. I will tell you that you've already admitted that you did that a lot of the things that you are holding on to have to do with a friend that you believe the version of the story you've gotten is, first of all, accurate. Sure. And it's how you feel about that situation that is what's causing your skepticism.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. And,
by the way, your friend is welcome to call.
I would like to ask one question, and then we're probably going to wrap up, Tristan.
Yeah.
No worries.
I'm so glad that you agreed that like the well-being of children is important, and that, if this healthcare is as successful as I claim, then it would be a good thing. Can you also agree that it's a good thing for children to have adults at school that make them feel safe even when their home lives are not safe?
Make them feel safe? Absolutely. Now that word "make them feel safe" is very subjective, but yes, I agree. Well, 100%. That needs to be a safe place for every young person in this country, no questions asked.
Okay. Yeah. So like if a if a kid knows that their parents would be really angry and punish them if they came out as trans, and they talk to a teacher at school and they get support, and the teacher just says, I'm here to make you feel safe at school, do you think that that's a good thing for children?
Of course it is. There's no, there's literally no argument to that, and anybody would say otherwise. It's just lying to themselves.
Well, there's entire policies, like in Florida, where the teacher now has to disclose to the parents, no matter how abusive the child says the parents are going to be if they hear this information, that
that's where I believe line now gets drawn and becomes blurred.
I believe now. Oh, I don't think so. I think that I think it's very easy to say, like, when you're here, we just take care of you. They're not sending them off to surgeries. They're not getting them actual appointments for therapy, despite the fact they may need them. If anything, I'd say that where we're pretending the line is blurry is harmful, because we probably should be giving kids access to certain services. I'm opposed to things like Jehovah's Witnesses being able to deny a child a blood transfusion because of their beliefs. At that point, that's too abusive. Remove them from their care. And if the outcomes are that bad, and in a lot of cases it seems there are, I would have been better. And again, not trans. I would have been better off, even knowing how fucked up the foster care system is, removed from my family situation.
So do you believe that removing children from their situation is a better answer than leaving them with their parental figures? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to ask that question. That's a very overarching question, because obviously CPS is...
I'll answer it, even overarching.
Yeah, but it's a bad question, because everybody believes that if they have shitty parents that are abusive, I mean, take the fucking kids away. Excuse my language, sorry.
You're good.
Take kids away. But
there's also way more to the solution necessary than just removing them, though. Again, we need to be leaning into our, dare I say, socialist side of things, and be giving everybody access to everyone. Good mental health care as a right. Good physical health care as a right. Access to education as a right.
I agree with you in a sense, but I also disagree in a major way. I'm not going to hold up your airways anymore. I appreciate the conversation. Let's have it again, and we can debate that socialist aspect of it.
We'll go to the fiscal stuff next time. Sounds great.
Yeah, sure.
All right, thanks, Tristan.
Well, I appreciate the call, both of you. You guys have a great rest of your day. God bless you.
You too. Bye-bye. Sometimes I can't tell when the notes are a person who wants to debate or wants to make a point, like that first call, and now another call potentially. Well, it says they're MAGA.
I mean, it says MAGA, so I must assume that they're here to debate.
These three calls all came in at the same time, so I'm going to let this last one screen before we decide which one. But I also, additionally to you don't have to stay to the trans stuff. We're happy to stay with the trans stuff, but we also just we want to find out who's right about any given issue. So if you feel like I'm not ready to change their mind on trans stuff, but I think I've got the way they're going to have to sit back and go, oh shit, I didn't think about that. Let me reevaluate my abortion stance or any of the things. You've now seen it modeled. It is not hard on this show. And this is what annoys me about some callers and then people whining so much in the comments. It is not hard on this show to get to say your piece. It is not hard to engage honestly and even end the call still saying, I don't agree with you. And that all just happened. It's really, really easy. It's when people get a little shouty and I'd like to have an asshole contest.
Yeah, we're sort of modeling almost that it is possible actually to live in a country together. I think that this is, I mean, obviously not from my position, but from the MAGA position, them wanting to purge anybody that they don't agree with or that they don't like. Whereas I don't give a shit if my next door neighbor doesn't believe in their heart anything about my gender identity. I don't give a fuck. That doesn't matter to me, but it does seem to matter to other people. They don't want a trans person living next door to them. That's not my problem though.
I admit I do fear for their children, my neighbors, but I don't know the perfect solution to all that.
Yeah.
It's
that's why we fund the public schools.
Trans people are rare enough that it's not having as quick of a change in society as gay people did when we finally were like, okay, they are here, it turns out. And then a bunch of, congressmen found out they had a gay son, and suddenly things changed a little faster, where it's kind of now it's whether or not it's going to turn out you have a trans kid is a lot lower And it's, by the way, that sucks for the people in that position who changed the society, who was like, I was the gay son that changed the Republican congressman dad's mind, more often moms, and since it was Republican, there aren't that many moms in Congress on the Republican side anyway, but I do digress. The people who were changing the mind, it definitely sucked for them. It even sucks for, like, you know, always wanting to make this about myself. It sucked to be the first kid out of the church, because you're the transition out of the church kid. And then it's easier for everyone who follows after you, and easier still
But
for
you
those
had to
who
make that
follow
first
after
step.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's talk to Justin in Maine. Justin in Maine, you want to talk about the Second Amendment. We got you, buddy. Let's do it.
What's going on, guys?
Not a
Well,
lot. How's Maine
can
this
you hear
time of year? Yeah, sure do.
So, well, I'm actually on vacation in D.C., so I'm getting away from the cold a little bit, but yeah, it's not too bad.
How many times have you stopped to
So
show your papers to the National Guard?
No, it's funny. I've down here, and I expected to see a lot more. I've seen them at a couple of different spots, but coming to D.C. for the first time, you know, it's actually it was good. It wasn't like you're in like a war zone. I think I saw them at a couple of metro stations. And
It's almost like they kept telling us it was a war
low-key.
zone, but it was actually a publicity stunt, and they were just sending the people, and that really it's not making a significant difference. That's my read on it, Justin, but obviously yours will be different. Justin, how old are you, if you don't mind?
So 40.
Cool. It says here, you believe that the death of Charlie Kirk sparked a lot of misunderstanding about the Second Amendment. People are talking about getting guns. I mean, I know I've been telling everybody to buy guns. Basically, I've been saying, if you aren't going to off yourself with it, go get a gun.
Yep.
So what do you disagree about?
I think it's been interesting. Well, no, I think it's, from what I've seen, I'm, a big Second Amendment. I've hunted my whole life. I'm a competitive shooter. A lot of it's a big part of my life and my family's life. And it's almost like when you go through more liberal administrations, it's like the taglines you see on TV, and evil black rifles and AR-15s and ban and take away. And the thing that I noticed was interesting is both with Charlie Kirk, and then I saw something in the news about, I think it was Trump was saying he wanted to ban transgender people from buying guns or limiting their access.
Yeah,
and he also
heard about
banned
that.
bump stocks. He also tried to ban bump stocks in his first administration, whereas it is funny because you mentioned like under liberal administrations, but under Obama, we actually lost regulations, and it was actually, you could carry guns in more places. There was less regulations under Obama than Bush, and then Trump comes along, adds more. Biden comes along, we lose none. In fact, the thing gets overturned. The bump stocks get overturned under him, so arguably also less under Biden. And now we're on Trump, and Trump's talking about who to take guns away from. So I'm glad you made the point, because I've noticed it too, and it is very odd how we hear how the liberals, of which I am not one, are going to take our guns away, and yet it's only the conservatives so far doing so.
So definitely correct on the bump stock thing, and I know that caused a lot of waves. Like there was just a misunderstanding, I think, of even what they do and how they work. But I would agree. I think when I say like on the left, I think it's been a lot of the talking points. If you look at actual traction, like laws getting passed, I would agree. I think it's been pretty, stagnated. What I've seen is more things, or like for instance, with the ATF under this administration with Trump, has been pulling back some regulation or enforcement or some of their opinions letters. So that hasn't come forth in the form of law, new laws being passed, but it has definitely been much more call it Second Amendment in the ATF and their enforcement, because they use versus, laws that have to go through your full process. The ATF can make their rulings or opinions and effectively impact law. And as a gun owner, that's something we feel quite a bit, whether it's something not the bump stocks, but pistol braces, where the ATF was saying, hey, you can have this pistol brace. Then they're saying, actually, no, it makes a short barrel rifle. I know some of these, and I'm not sure how familiar you are with some of the terms, but it basically, it always feels like, as a
I played
conservative,
Borderlands. It's a joke.
Yeah. So it feels
Justin,
like at times,
I'm wondering
like
if we can
when
get to
you're,
where's a point of like clear disagreement rather than talk about you and I are going to almost certainly have a varying line of where the ban should be. Like Second Amendment, right to bear arms and stuff. I don't think either of us believe that a private citizen has a right to own a nuke. I don't think either of us think anyone has the private citizens has a right to own a drone armed with a Moab, right? Am I so far correct?
Yes.
So there's a line somewhere. We probably differ on the line, but generally with the Second Amendment, I don't think whatever gun laws there are should be on a blanket, shall not be infringed upon. I probably would repeal the Second Amendment, but it doesn't mean I would disarm America because I'm a socialist and like the way Javon puts it, I believe in arming. I don't know if he says the proletariat, but I'm going to go with that. I believe the proletariat should have guns. I think that it is more effective at preventing corporate corruption than government corruption, potentially. Now, Justin, what is the actual point of disagreement that we're like getting to as far as it says you are here as MAGA, but it sounds like you're just talking about have guns. And I think right now, so many of you guys have guns that hate my side that of course I want my side to have guns because I think it changes the likelihood of whether or not one of your side will show up at my door.
Well, and I think, without, and hence the call, and maybe we do have more agreement than disagreement in my experience, I've experienced with the people that I've talked to that are identifying as left or more liberal.
Probably not socialist, though.
More
We're
regulation, more. Well,
yeah.
There you go. Okay. Well, like I said,
sure.
I think if we agree on the point that Second Amendment, good, people should have guns. I agree on the suicide part. Obviously, if there's people at risk, then I guess maybe we have more in common than I thought.
I don't want to try to squeeze.
I'd repeal the Second Amendment, but I wouldn't disarm America, and we'd have different gun laws.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't want to squeeze a disagreement out of a call if we don't really have one, but I actually think that we should just reinterpret the Second Amendment. And, the part where it says a well-regulated militia, maybe that part should be more pertinent rather than just a carte blanche. Everybody can have guns with no real restrictions.
Yeah, Justin, for example, I'm very opposed. You and I could go to a gun range or a gun shop today and leave with an AR-15. And what's the up to? I'm in Texas, so most of them will wink and just give it to me that day, but maybe I'd have to wait 72 hours. I don't have to show them I know how to use it. I don't have to show them I know how to load it. I don't have to show them that I know which end the bullet comes out of. I just go in and I do it. But if I want a car, I want to use it, I want to have it, I have to show some level of basic responsibility. And so I would definitely say the Second Amendment gets in the way of making a person prove that they are able to store a weapon safely, that they will store a weapon safely. It gets in the way of who gets guns and how easily they get guns. And I think you should have to prove, and I think you should have to carry insurance, by the way, in the same way that car ownership goes.
So how do you get around the issue that I would have if you got rid of the Second Amendment or you took out or tried to remove it or rewrite it? Is, in my experience, most things that the government tries to get involved in end up worse, right? Like if I go to the DMV and I'm looking for support there versus if I call a private company, Amazon, whatever, for customer support, like for me, trusting the government, we'll take care of it. It's okay. Like we'll change it. We'll put in training requirements. As someone that's gone through that, it never is effective. And that's
Justin, I totally agree
that I have.
And it's why the same thing I said to the last caller is true. You can't do it with only the one law fix. You then have to also extend into, and in this case, a lot of the things that you're describing, we have to, your banner's going to be mid-face there for a second. Okay, sorry, we're just doing things. You would have to extend for that. We need to get money out of politics. We need to repeal Citizens United. We need to ensure that we have representatives who are actually after our best interests, because the reason why the government is doing it shittier is because right now the government is prioritizing billionaires because that's who pays them. I was going to say who funds the government. That's not quite correct. It's who funds the politicians so they don't have to fund the government. So if we actually had comprehensive laws that were citizens first, not corporation first, I believe you would find that a lot of those issues go away, as you see in other countries who, one, don't need a Second Amendment for gun use, and two, don't have as bad of crime as here, but they do recommend, or gun crime is here, or crime in general, but they do have things like comprehensive healthcare policies, comprehensive housing policies, education policies. They invest back in their citizens, knowing it will repay them, and they don't prioritize the corporations over. So, of course, repealing the Second Amendment alone is by far not even the most important thing we need to do. The first thing we need to do is pass Medicare for all.
Fair enough.
Yeah. That's why I said to the last caller too, it almost all of them come down to you need to pass Medicare for all first. It's like everyone. And somebody in the chat reminded me too, the guy who called the other day was saying that it is because drug offense, the drug criminalization of drugs in other countries is more severe. They were claiming that that's why the drug, the crime is better in all of those places, but he only listed places that had universal health care, housing policies, higher quality of life, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, this is just an aside to a callback to previous in the show. Anyway, Justin, we can, if that's everything you wanted from us, we've got some other people waiting we can move to, but if you had a different point of conflict or debate, we can definitely hit those.
No, it's all good. I appreciate the time, and good luck with the show.
Thanks, Justin.
Man.
Oh, I have to take this one. I just want to say at the very beginning, full cards out on the table. Andrew in New Jersey, you're on the line. Let's wait for the tag to change. The producer hasn't noticed yet. I can yell to the other room. I just yelled to the other room, get the name tag changed. Andrew in New Jersey, you are on the line with Luxander and Jimmy, and I gotta tell you, full disclosure, I don't want to lie. I don't want you to go away feeling like I find you to be one of the most bad faith, terrible interlocutors that consistently call both channels. And I can guarantee you, you're going to look dumb by the end of this call. Knowing that, would you still like to proceed?
Yeah, I want to proceed. According to your chat, I look dumb at the end of every call, so it's no surprise to me.
I think if we asked family members of you to watch the call, they'd tell us that, but I don't know. Andrew, I'm not saying that you're dumb because that you're bad because you're MAGA. I'm saying you're bad at even being MAGA. Like on the standard of what a MAGA would want, you're much less Charlie Kirk. You're more like what comes out of Ann Coulter's ass, not Ann Coulter herself, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, most of my family will tell you. I mean, my family is filled with rotten leftists, so I'm not surprised neither.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Do you feel like it's hard to convince your family that you're not a fascist?
I don't know. I mean,
do you think your family thinks you're a fascist?
Probably.
Yeah. Those people who've known you so long.
Yeah.
That probably bugs you. All right. Well, Andrew,
Jimmy,
look, we've got you
Jimmy
on.
is not that excited, but listen, Andrew, I have to listen to you do calls with other hosts while I'm producing, so I'm excited to get to talk to you today.
I'm glad I don't make the clips anymore. All right, Andrew, I watched you on Chewed Gum the other night. That was a rough time, Andrew. So let's see. Andrew, Andrew's claim is, I don't want to be forced to use pronouns. Is that the claim before you support it? Just a simple yes or no.
Yes.
Great. Andrew, how old are you real quick?
19.
Andrew is 19. Has anybody on the channel asked you that before? Is this the first time you've been asked how old you are?
We know how old he is.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're a man. Your pronouns are he, him, I assume, right? You don't want me to call you she, her. You'd prefer he, him?
Yeah, he, him, yeah.
Yeah, I got you. What are some of your hobbies? What's your favorite thing to do with your free time? I'm trying to humanize you here, Andrew, to make myself less of a dick on this call. I promise you this is for your benefit. What are some of your hobbies?
You can do whatever you want, man.
Thank you. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do, though. But what are some of your hobbies, Andrew?
I told you, Warzone.
Warzone? Call of Duty?
Yep.
Oh, cool. What about outside? What's an outdoor activity you like? It's okay if you don't
Basketball,
have any.
that's my junk.
Basketball. Nice.
do.
How tall are you? Do you mind if I
Yeah.
ask? You don't have to answer that, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, 6 feet.
6 feet. I'm 6'2". I can't dunk
Respectable.
though. Can you dunk?
Yeah, I can dunk, yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. 6 feet. That's a high lift. What does that take? Like, is that 2 feet? Is that 24 inches to dunk? What do you need to get up there?
I don't know. I haven't really measured it. I just jump. I don't really think about how many inches it is.
Sure. So let me ask you a question. If later today you were talking to somebody about this call and you were like, yeah, I talked to Jimmy, what would you say? He was a dick. Because that's probably like that sentence is probably going to be accurate enough. So if of the sentences, would you say he was a dick, she was a dick, they were a dick? Which one of those sentences would you go with?
Can you repeat that?
Which sentence, if you were recalling this call later about me, Jimmy, would you say he was a dick, she was a dick, they were a dick? Which one would you do?
I wouldn't say none of it. I was just having a conversation.
All right, sure. I had a conversation with him, I had a conversation with her, or I had a conversation with them. Which one would you say?
Well, with you specifically, I would say I had a conversation with him.
Cool. What about Luxander? Would you say I had a conversation with him, I had a conversation with her, I had a conversation with them, I had a conversation with it, I had a conversation with them? What would you say?
I'll say I had a conversation with Luxander.
You wouldn't use a pronoun at all?
No.
So you would opt. By the way, that's at least a smaller amount of respect than other MAGA people will do. You won't mispronoun them, but you would just say Luxander. You won't decide what pronoun.
Yeah.
All right. Andrew,
Yeah.
let's say you're... Go ahead. What's that?
Yeah, I will use for trans individuals. I just use their name.
Okay. So you're just going to sound very unnatural, be content to sound very unnatural, and only use their name, which is a level of like autism sounding that I haven't even reached yet. But that's fine, Andrew. Maybe you're there. I haven't gotten to that level of literalism. Andrew, who is trying to force you to do something other than that? So Luxander would prefer that you say it or them, right? Lux, do you have any others?
That's pretty much it.
So that's what Lux would prefer. Who's trying to force you to say one of those instead of using Lux's name over and over again?
Well, let's say if I'm like a business owner, should I be
Sure.
forced to use? Should I be forced to use preferred pronouns? Like if I don't want
Technically, no, not technically. You shouldn't technically be forced to use preferred pronouns. However, you should be prohibited from explicitly using the wrong pronouns. Because actually, in the case that you just said, Andrew, any law that you're trying to point to would not prohibit an employer from doing what you just said, only calling Luxander Luxander. And the laws that you are pointing to also have nothing to do with force or criminalization. They have to do with harassment. Andrew, if let's say that if I'm your employer and you come and you're at my job every day, can I call you Muscles as a nickname and you're cool with that?
You said if you're at my job?
I'm your employer.
I'm at your job?
You come in every day and I was like, hey there,
Okay.
Muscles. I call you Muscles. You cool with that?
Yeah, I don't care.
Cool. Now you come in every day and I, your boss, am calling you Floppy Titty McGee. Are you cool with that? In front of everybody.
Depends
People at the store, people,
Well, I'll just
other
say-
employees.
Yeah, I just say that's not my name.
But I keep doing it anyway. And now other people are calling you Floppy Titty McGee. And now you become the laughing stock at work. Should you have any legal recourse right now if I will not stop, even after you express to me, I don't want you to call me Floppy Titty McGee. It hurts my feelings or it makes me feel humiliated. It emasculates me, however you want to express it. Should you have any recourse, or should your only recourse be to leave that job?
Oh, if it was really bothering me like that, I would just leave the job. I mean, I don't.
But
see what the
should
big
you
deal
have
is.
more options? So let's say you're a single dad in an area where there are no other jobs, and you really need this job. You can't afford to miss a paycheck, and somebody is outwardly harassing you, is what we're talking about. Floppy Titty McGee. They're harassing you. They're saying it over and over and again. You're the laughingstock of everybody else. You are going to work, dreading going to work. Your mental health care is taking a huge hit. Should you have, or should somebody in that situation have the ability to go somewhere and say, this is my place of employment and I am being harassed because they are exclusively calling me things that make me feel bad. And they are making me a laughingstock of other people by doing so. Would that qualify as harassment in your world or not?
Yeah, I guess that'll be harassment. Yeah.
Great. Those are the
I mean, if they
only types of pronoun laws that exist. If you are going out of your way to continually attack a person and degrade them by not using their pronouns, they may be able to pursue civil litigation. You cannot go to prison for it. You cannot go to jail. But you can prove in some places, and only some, that they are harassing you. And when you do so, you will have to prove it is intentional and malicious, and that they have been asked not to do all of the things. Usually you're going to have to document it.
How many times?
Usually you'll have to document it.
How many lawyers? Yeah, I understand, but I'm saying, what is the amount that you can misgender?
By accident,
Like
pretty
how many
much
times?
unlimited.
One
And that's
time,
actually
two
why
times?
a lot of people get away with it. If you can't prove that it's malicious, and there aren't a lot of people around to say, and especially because of the courts here, they aren't as good as they should be. Because obviously there wouldn't be a version of this if somebody was just casually throwing the F slur out or whatever. They're going to say, no, you don't get away with it. But because there's enough coverage, most people don't even succeed with civil litigation. However, as soon as you can prove that it is being permitted on purpose by being able to, whether it's recording conversations or having multiple other employees have your back and say, nope, when that person leaves, the boss comes in or the other coworker comes in and they're saying this shit, the boss heard them say that shit, you're going to need basically a lot of witnesses and documentation if possible. The bar is extremely high to succeed there, especially if you are trans. But Andrew, you're now trying to get into like whether or not it's being applied fairly. So before we hit fairly, can you now admit, Andrew, that if you can prove it's happening maliciously, that they should be able to have a civil lawsuit for harassment if that is the situation a person is in?
Well, I don't know if I agree with that because, like if I'm an employer, I'm going to have to spend probably hundreds or thousands of dollars trying to get my name cleared. You know, just because.
If you're doing it malicious, wait, Andrew. We just established that we have proven that the person did it maliciously. So you're saying it might cost money for them to clear their name. I'm not talking about whether or not in an instance where let's pretend trans people hate cis people so much and occasionally they go out and lie about it. And those are the lawsuits. Okay, throw all those lawsuits out. Now we just have the lawsuits where the trans person has proven that they are being maliciously harassed and purposefully misgendered, both on a level of an employee or an employer, but at the permission of the employer. Should they have that recourse? You said no, because it'll cost them so much money to clear their name. But you're saying no, because it'll cost them to clear the name for the thing you've agreed they're guilty of. That's like being like for sexual harassment. If they're grabbing a girl's ass, should the girl be able to sue for sexual assault and harassment? Well, no, because they might have to spend so much money to clear their name and make people like them again, even though I agree they did commit the harassment. So we're agreeing that they did the action. Go ahead.
Sexual harassment is physical, I think, though. That's the difference between me actually grabbing
sexual harassment can be. Listen, Andrew, if you just say to a woman in your workplace, like, I'd love to smack your ass, you just say it. You don't touch her. You just say it. That is sexual harassment.
Andrew, do you have a girlfriend?
No.
Have you? Well, would you like to? Are you straight, man? I don't know if you're straight or gay.
No, I don't care about having a girlfriend. Back to this.
Hang on. No. There's a reason I'm going here. Would you have a girlfriend, or are you opposed to having a girlfriend?
I don't care about having a girlfriend.
That's not the question. I'm trying to personalize this for you and humanize you. Is it realistic if I say, Andrew, let's pretend you have a girlfriend at the beginning of a hypothetical. Are you good with that, or do you not like having girlfriends? If you're gay, I don't want to say girlfriend. If you'd rather I say boyfriend. Or if you're saying you're asexual, you don't want either, then we'll go with a family member instead.
Well, women are pretty terrible, so at this point, I don't think I want a girlfriend.
True. That's fair enough. Okay, we at least agree on that. Women are awful. The only thing worse than women, men. All right, Andrew. I have zero notes for what I just said. Usually I say I'm joking. No, that's 100% true. Everything I just said, I stand by. Women are awful. Only thing worse are men. Okay, Andrew, you have a family member. They're conservative like you. You love them. They're a woman. We're going to call her Tasha. All right, Andrew, is Tasha okay?
Yeah, sure.
Tasha goes to work, and every day at work, another employee says, I want to fuck your titties. I like that you're floppy titty McGee. And the boss hears it, does nothing about it. In fact, there's even proof the boss laughs about it when Tasha's not around. This other employee coming in constantly is talking about wanting to titty fuck her. She's getting distressed about it because she can't find another job. She's trying to wear more and more modest clothing. The more modest the clothing, the more he makes fun of her and seems to target more. She's asked HR and corporate to step in. They're not doing anything. They haven't corrected. Maybe HR had a meeting and said like, hey, you got to stop doing this. But this guy's sales are so high that he just confidently keeps doing it. Should your sister Tasha be able to take any kind of legal recourse because she is being harassed and her employer is aware of it and enabling it? Yes or no?
Well, that's a fake hypothetical. That's
no. It happens. No, it isn't, Andrew. Andrew, it's not a fake hypothetical because it happens all of the time. You do or do not believe she should have access. If it happened, should she be able to?
I don't think that happens. I think that's a super
Great.
ultra
Let's say
loaded
it does happen.
It sounds cartoonishly fake.
Andrew, the reason why you can't get a girlfriend is because every woman knows this does happen and you deny that it happens. But if it did happen, Andrew, if it happened, would you agree that it doesn't require her to be touched for her to have a harassment case? That speech alone would work there.
Whatever, fine, whatever.
Great, Andrew. So you agree that it is harassment is speech-based. Usually if you have a physical element, that's when it is raised to assault. Okay, so now we're talking about speech. We're talking about a hostile work environment, and we're talking about a person going out of their way, maliciously making sure, because there are no cases of the person who accidentally misgendered going to jail because it's not criminal in the first place. It is only harassment charges. Overwhelmingly, because the bar is so high, trans people not dedicate themselves. What would the right word be? Basically resort to poverty and don't pursue criminal or civil litigation because they can't afford an attorney because it's hard to make money and get ahead in life as a trans person in America. And they do tend to just leave those jobs because they effectively have no recourse, even though in some places they're supposed to be. So you're sitting here and going, I don't want anybody to be forced to. Luxander, do you want to force Andrew to use your pronouns?
Not really.
I don't want to force you to use my pronouns. So you have a cisgender person and a transgender person here saying, we're not going to force you to use our pronouns. And even if we are going to humiliate you when you don't, even if we're going to be an asshole right back to you when you don't, we might try to socially compel you. Neither of us want you to go to jail if you insist on not using our pronouns.
So you're going to humiliate me? Okay, so you're going to humiliate somebody if they don't want to call what they clearly see as a man or woman?
Correct. If a person identifies as, just like if I say, Andrew, what if you have floppy titties? Can I then call you floppy titty McGee, even if you don't want to be called it?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. If
I
I'm
can.
fat and overweight, then yeah, call me sloppy.
And you're not going, and you don't believe it will be appropriate to socially humiliate a person who would be such an asshole to call an overweight person Floppy Titty McGee.
Yeah, if I'm overweight, then go for it.
And so that overweight person should not
Well,
be
if you
able
call
to
me floppy
shit on
titty-
you back. Andrew, let's say you're ugly. If you call out my floppy titties, I can't make fun of you for being ugly. That's not allowed. That's not appropriate to socially humiliate someone who's a dick.
Well, if it's the truth, then I'm ugly. I mean, what you want me to do about it?
And what you just said that it's about being forced, and then you took issue with, yes, I'm going to socially humiliate you if you are a dick to a person and
That's not
reject
social
their
humiliation.
identity and do so maliciously.
That's not social humiliation if I'm really ugly and you call me ugly.
Yes, it is.
I can be like, that's the truth.
It absolutely
How?
is. Yeah. Okay. Andrew, who doesn't leave his apartment, won't get a girlfriend, his 19-year-old son, just Call of Duty Warzone. I'm sure that you have the thickest skin in the world. It's very believable.
Like, are you saying like something can't be insulting if it's true? Like, do you think that it's not hurtful to gay kids to be called the F slur? Like,
But
just 'cause
I am
something
an
is-
F slur.
Like, in fact, that is hurtful, actually. Like, that makes it more hurtful, in my opinion. If somebody says something that's true, like if somebody says something about like my receding hairline, I get a little bit upset sometimes. Like,
Yeah. Clearly, I have body
why do you get
dysmorphia.
upset?
because
Why do
I'm
you get upset?
self-conscious about things. If you point out something that I'm self-conscious about, I'm going to feel bad because you have correctly pointed out something that I am lacking confidence in. So if you're overweight people, and
Why would
I
you
think
feel
you're
bad
maybe
about
skinny, you're like 19, so you're skinny, I think, probably still. People do get upset
Yeah.
when they're fat, and you point out that they're fat, and you say "LOL, fat titties." Like, that's an insult. That and for gender reasons too, because men can have dysphoria if they have big titties from being fat. I am speaking out of turn on this because Jimmy can probably speak more to that, having gone through weight fluctuations in the past. Like, my titties are not as affected by that, but yeah, like, I don't like. Have you never been
I need a
insulted?
bra almost.
Did you never have bullies in high school who would call out things that were true and you found that hurtful? Like,
Well, not really. I mean, if they were telling the truth, and it's the truth.
Andrew,
I
you're so
don't
full
know.
of shit. Andrew, if it's not
I
a
think
big
you're
deal,
not-
why
yeah.
not then just if the speech is not a big deal, why does it hurt you so much to call a person by that which they wish to identify? Why is that so rough for you?
'Cause I
It
feel
doesn't
like-
matter anyway, so why not
Well,
call them? Call the trans woman a woman. Why not?
Because I feel like I'm lying, and I don't want to do that.
So it's feeling based.
I think if I
Well,
was
yeah,
in your
I'm
workplace,
lying.
so Andrew, if you were my boss in this hypothetical situation where you're talking about like, well, if I'm an employer, am I being compelled to blah, blah, blah? First of all, I don't want to work for you. If you're calling me by only my name, I know that you're hateful. And guess what? You are losing out on my extraordinary talent and valuable contribution I would be making to your team. Like, I guess that's like,
Fair enough.
I've been thinking on that for a little while. So that was a thought that I didn't actually mean to spew right now. And it derailed my original point.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why you think I would want to work for you in the first place. Like, you are losing yourself valuable, talented individuals by not acquiescing to this. And frankly, if I were to tell you, if I had a performance review and I was working for you and you only ever called me Luxander, if you asked me during my performance review, like, do I like working here? I would be like, yeah, I love working here. It's great.
Yeah.
That's called lying to be polite and to keep your job. Like, sometimes lying is literally necessary for you to survive. Sometimes lying is necessary to have a cohesive work environment. We are a social species. Sometimes you have to omit the truth in order to have a salubrious and pleasant relationship with the people in your lives. So, like, I don't know why you think you're exempt from that for some reason, that frankly.
So if
I'm mad at them
okay,
too for saying
if I want-
salubrious.
if I want-
I don't know what it
wanted you
means
to-
either.
If I wanted you to call me my lord, would you call me that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat?
If I wanted you to call me my lord, would you call me that?
No, because
the
it's an
workplace?
honorific that establishes power
Right.
imbalances.
Right.
I also, by the way, I won't call the king my lord
But I
or your
feel like a lord.
majesty. I won't
But
call
I-
the president
Yeah.
any. Honorifics are a completely different thing because you're wanting my lord because you want an acknowledgement and an honorific of of a position of power, and I reject those power structures in the first place. You went with a weird example for something that no one should acknowledge, and it's fucked up we do.
That's how I feel.
And yet your brain doesn't have the capacity to have the experience of a milord as an actual, like, this is a characteristic of being a human versus a peasant. Humanity, there is no significant difference where it's just based on, are you born a lord or not born a lord? Did your parents have money, right? It's not an actual thing we could measure in any way besides asking how much money do your parents have and what were their positions in power. It's not automatically.
You don't have to think you don't have to think that I'm in power of anything. I just want to be called my lord.
Andrew, to tell you the truth,
I want to be called.
If you had that kind of level of delusion and I worked in a mental health firm, mental health facility where you were, and that was what it took to keep you balanced, for sure I'd call you my lord.
Agreed.
For sure. If it would improve your mental health outcomes in that scenario, I definitely would. But if you're just trying to do the my lord thing as an example that you clearly don't feel, and by the way, you're complaining about lying and being forced to lie, but a moment ago you didn't mind lying when you pretended it was your choice. You don't have a girlfriend. So you're clearly fine with lying when you want to lie.
I didn't say it was my choice.
Yeah, that was what you implied. That you don't have a girlfriend because girls are awful, and so you're not pursuing a girlfriend. Let's be real, bud.
Okay, Jimmy, what is a woman?
I know what an incel sounds like. Sorry, what?
What is a woman?
Who cares?
What is a woman?
Are you asking because you can't get one to talk to you?
Yeah, sure. What is it?
Well, then there's the definition: a person who won't talk to you.
Okay, what is a woman biologically then?
I don't play there's no such thing as biologically. Okay, a biological woman would be a non-artificial woman. Trans women are not robots. They are women. You're saying, what is a woman biologically, as though it's a biological question.
So if a man is, so would you date a trans woman?
I have dated trans women.
So you're Andrew, a homosexual?
I'm a bisexual. I've dated trans women, straight women, trans women, cis women.
Yeah, I don't even know why.
Trans men,
you all
cis men.
Okay.
Excuse me, what was that?
I said, I don't even know why. I should have known you was like a bisexual. No, I'm saying I should have known you was a bisexual dude. I don't even know why.
Yeah, I'm a person who can embrace who I actually am. I don't live with the type of sexual shame and absolute self-disgust that you live with.
I mean, two men.
But also, look at my shirt. Did you think I was hiding it? I have a rainbow duck that says pride on it. What do you think I was hiding? You're right. You should have known, Andrew. You're bad.
Yeah.
How many minutes are we at this point? Yeah. Guys, please pay me to have taken this painful call. As soon as we'll do $50 of super chats. Andrew's turn will be over. Andrew, you're sitting here going, you think the what is a woman thing, the only reason you do that argument is because our answer is nuanced. But you know that your side will laugh if any nuance is presented. If we don't just straight up say an XX chromosome, blah, 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 blah. As you count on that your whole side doesn't understand the terminology and thinks that it's a common sense answer. And so because your side will laugh when the answer isn't just the straight up, which by the way, most people on our side are fine going like, yeah, we'll start with adult human female, just the way you will start with a simple explanation of what a chair is. But then you're going to have to expand into the other definitions as you find even people in your category that you're calling women where adult doesn't quite fit it just right. Human doesn't necessarily fit it just right. And female, especially what you're defining as a female, doesn't fit it just right.
Yeah, well, I mean, the transgender people tell us that a woman is anyone who identifies as a woman. But then when I get into some of the identifiers, it's like vague, because even with some of the identifiers, you can have those identifiers and still identify as a man.
Correct. So that means you don't identify as a woman. You just said You just made their point for them. And what you're talking about is trying to create a definition that will universally work, which is impossible for basically all words. A universal definition that we're all going to lock in and agree on, and there's no more work to do on this ever again forever, versus the actual nuanced position of I, as in everyday life, a woman to me will be whoever asks me to respect them as a woman, or whoever you don't have to go out of your way to ask me individually, but anyone who tells me they're a woman, just in the same way, Andrew, that you said your name is Andrew and you could be lying. I told you my name is Jimmy and I am lying, but I do identify as Jimmy.
Yeah, but those
so it's not quite a lie.
Those are empty labels.
No, they aren't. Being Jimmy is extremely important to me.
An empty label.
Woman is too. To tell you the truth, I don't find gender all that.
No.
How big you think this gender question is? It's only as big as it is because bigotry exists to oppose it and to try and keep people out of it. If we lived in an actual, like, very progressive society, our gender, our pronouns and everything, people would give two fucks about, because and we've seen this in societies. You just don't really give a fuck. It's not important to you. There aren't laws on the basis of a man versus a woman. It wouldn't matter as much. It matters so much because there's bigotry against it, just like race is literally so stupid and arbitrary. It's so dumb to segregate on the basis of race, and yet we can't seem to stop doing it because these differences aren't that significant. And anybody who you feel like is just like, this is the perfect ideal of a woman because of these characteristics of them, you will find a man who identifies as a man with those characteristics. The spectrum is so broad.
Yes.
That it makes all the terms meaningless. So you should just honor a person with whatever they want to identify as. And unless you can establish that an abuse is happening as a result of a power imbalance established by those, like an adult versus a child, which it would be the difference with pedophilia or zoophilia, keep it to yourself and shut the fuck up and just honor people and let them live their goddamn lives.
Okay, all right, yeah, all right, fair enough.
Andrew, you've been paid to be booted. This is your last point. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. Okay, so because I've heard this from leftists, and they say if you're a man and you're dating a trans woman, that means are you straight? And they always say yeah. Like, can you explain to me how it's two?
I can't. I told you it was your final point.
Straight sex.
I told you it was your final point.
Oh, okay.
So I won't be explaining it to you, but if a future caller asks, I will explain it to them.
Okay.
Goodbye, Andrew.
Bye.
Okay.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I haven't lost my patience with him yet.
He's just so dishonest and learns nothing. He will come back and he will be asking these exact same questions the next time you speak to him. And saying the same shit.
I have memory problems. Let's fucking go. I'll do it over and over again.
All right, we'll do a person who from the left center wants to agree with MAGA on a point, and then we'll come back to the trans stuff. The trans things. But in the meantime, we have Josh in Wales. Excuse me, let me restart that because I hiccuped on you, Josh. Josh from Wales is calling in to talk about the MAGA point that he agrees with. Go, another hiccup. Sorry about that. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm okay. Are you the Welsh guy who called once and told me I was as thick as they said the wrong term, but as thick as the hemorrhoid on my ass? I did have a hemorrhoid at the time. Was that you?
No, it's my first time calling, so.
All right, good enough. Good enough. All right, what point do you want to bring up?
Well, the only MAGA policy that I personally agree with would be the illegal immigration.
Great. So do you agree with how hard it is to become a legal immigrant in America before we get into what should happen if you're illegal?
Well, I don't know the American
then
policy
you don't
on becoming legal.
Then Josh, this is going to be an extremely short call. This is going to be an extremely short call then, Josh, because you don't get a fucking opinion if you don't know that. Because right now, the core of the problem with immigration issues is our immigration policies. The fact that we present ourselves as the melting pot, but are a racist sack of shit country, and that we actually were a stronger, better country when we made it easier. If you don't even know what the restrictions are, why people are coming here anyway, despite those restrictions, and how hard it is to get through them, I don't care if you agree with then what you should do with an illegal immigrant, because right now the people we consider quote unquote illegal are benefiting our economy. They are pivotal to American success, and we're just sitting there and whining, going, "You cross an imaginary line we put in the dirt, therefore you deserve to go to a fucking concentration camp." Educate yourself holistically on the immigration issue, Josh, and we will have a discussion in the future. All right?
Yeah, well, fair enough. I agree with the imaginary line thing. I think the world should be open to the people anyway, and we as a society have put in imaginary lines. But
then you
And it
don't
makes
agree
no
with them
sense
on
that
illegal
you-
immigration.
Yeah, no, that's
You have
crazy.
you aren't even close to a MAGA immigration agreement then, because they actually believe these lines were put there by Jesus.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not. I'm very atheist, but
Should
as a
should
society,
illegal
we have
immigrants
put
go to
laws in place.
concentration camps?
Oh no, I think the way that Trump is handling illegal immigration is very unjust. But we've put in laws to say when you move to a country, you've got to do it.
They're
X
misdemeanors, Josh. Josh, it's a misdemeanor. I don't know if y'all have the same language for this in Wales, but like staying in the country longer than your visa says is like, it's literally like a go to court and get a fine kind of thing. It's not something that you should go to a concentration camp. People don't go to jail for it. Like, it's a very minor crime if in the very rare situations where it is actually a crime.
Would you agree with putting people in prison if they were going 10 miles an hour on a highway that they arbitrarily set the speed limit to 5 miles an hour to on a highway? Would you think that that is a problem with the people who are then going 10 miles an hour, or the stupid policy that set the law so restrictive that everyone who drives on that highway is going to end up breaking the law?
Yeah, that'd be stupid.
Then that's where we are. The problem isn't with the illegal immigrants. The problem is with the laws around how easy it is to become an illegal immigrant. And the fact that, again, there's not even a part in that metaphor that is this, that we subsist off of exploiting their labor, that they are coming over and benefiting us, that they are good for our economy, they're good for our communities. And we actually, the biggest reason why Republicans aren't actually going to get rid of all illegal immigrants is they'd have to start paying more for shit. They actually will suffer for that. The drug stuff that they all want to complain about, turns out that the number that drugs are being trafficked by a lot of white people, by planes, by legal forms of traffic. And it's not grandma taking an extra backpack full of cocaine as the coyote rapes her across the border, as Republicans would have you think is happening. Josh, if what makes a person an illegal immigrant, which is already a very silly phrase, but an illegal immigrant, if the rules around how you become an illegal immigrant were fair and smart rules, like you don't get to come over here if you are a known drug trafficker or murderer or whatever else under most instances, then I would be okay with deporting them too en masse, and in some cases sending them to prison facilities, though I wouldn't go with the inhumane ones, because even prisoners shouldn't be subjected to concentration camps that have terrible, inhumane conditions. But the problem here is we can all agree if somebody is here illegally, if they deserve that status of illegal, there should be repercussions. I'm saying they don't deserve it, and that's the core and pivotal argument to it. So I don't think if you think that I agree illegal immigrants shouldn't be allowed to just exist free in society, then there's a baseline to that almost anybody is going to agree with. But first we have to get through whether or not the people we're calling illegal should be called that.
Yeah, it's fair enough. But again, as a society, we have set a law in place. Well, I don't know how up to date you are pretty much with UK politics, but Reform UK, Nigel Farage's party is pretty much going to win our next general election based solely on immigration because it's such a powerful talking point and policy. And basically, Farage is our version of Donald Trump.
Well, if you're saying then we should enforce the laws as they're written, Donald Trump is doing new things and using unprecedented powers to do inhumane things. So that's not like he is definitely bypassing the laws that were written and being a fucking fascist. That's why the Supreme Court, conservative as it is, has had to reverse several things that he has done so far. And federal courts are as well, but we don't have enough checking powers, not since Mitch McConnell did the equivalent of raping that old lady with the coyote across the border, but to the rest of us by stacking the courts with radical judges. But again, Josh, I wouldn't expect you to know this because you're using just the most unnuanced, like, I agree, people who are here that are bad shouldn't be. Okay. No one wants bad people.
It's not even necessarily who are bad. I think it should be anyone. For instance, if I was to go to America, I've got a criminal record. Or if I was to go to Mexico, cross the border wherever, and I was in America legally, I'd fully expect it to be deported back to the UK.
Yeah, but if I invite you into my
deported
house
to a concentration camp in El Salvador, though, do you think that being deported back to your actual country would be an important part of the process, and having documentation of that would be an important part of the process, and not you being in an El Salvadoran concentration camp with no fucking recourse? Because that's the immigration policy in America right now.
That's the MAGA you support on only immigration.
Yeah, no, I think
country you've never been to.
Handle it, again, is unjust. I've been to America.
But you're also, again, you're describing, if I become dependent on you being in my home and taking care of me, but then I'm just like, fuck off. I know I made you all of these promises. I know and just get the fuck out of there. It's quite different than just like somebody came over and is maliciously working or whatever and just falling through the cracks. We are exploiting them. We are using them. We are treating them like shit. The answer is to make them legal and stop treating them like shit.
Yeah, I agree. Make them legal, but while they are illegal, they don't have a stance, really, do they?
Just to be exploited by if you mean we're not going to protect them, you're right, we're not. So let's fix the government, not the quote unquote illegals. They're fine. They're good people. They're here doing labor. They're taking care of us. They're often in hospitality. They literally opt for jobs that directly take care of us. Hospitality, manufacturing, field work, like literally the things that we just
like
don't fucking want to do. Right. The funny thing is there's not even a MAGA person who actually wants them gone. They just like the idea. But if you could do it all in one step, click your fingers and all the illegal immigrants are gone, they would immediately regret it because their lives would change so dramatically.
Jimmy, did you ever see the movie A Day Without a Mexican from 2004?
I did not.
I think about it constantly because it is like a pink cloud appears around the edges of California and all the Mexicans are like gone for a day. It follows one particular woman through it, but it is that like society would fucking collapse, actually.
Yeah. Let's be real, Josh. Americans aren't going to pick their strawberries. So let's just make anybody legal who will.
That's a very fair point.
I know you're close to Ireland. You guys might pick your potatoes, but here we don't do that shit. Not with my complexion.
Well, Ireland's in the EU now. The UK isn't. So I got
a sunburn at 11 p.m. yesterday. Okay, these people take care of us. Okay, Josh, we're gonna leave it there because I heard my girlfriend laugh in the other room, and now I'm content enough with this call. Thank you, Josh.
Thanks, Josh.
Well, say goodbye.
Also, go to bed.
I'm feeling a lack of closure, Josh. All right, Josh, I don't know if you meant to lose audio, but you did. with the door closed, if I can hear her laugh out loud, that's all I need. I'm like good to turn in the show, but we have more calls now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, another Andrew. I'm positive I'll like you more, Andrew. The bar's so low. Don't disappoint. Andrew in California, you are on the line with Jimmy and Luxander. Andrew, if I can ask first, how old are you?
I'm 19.
19?
Yeah.
Also, our other Andrew was 19. Which general region in California, also, if you don't mind, are you in the blue parts or the red parts?
I'm in the beautiful Sierras, as I usually am, though sometimes I'm in the Bay Area.
Can you get a little closer to your phone? It kind of sounds like it's on your table.
No, I'm holding it. But I thought you were doing some sort of trans debate night, so I had a point about transgenderism. But if you're doing any calls, I also have a point about the United Nations, because I care very deeply about opposing the United Nations. So I'll talk.
What country are you from before America?
I have never left the United States. I have a speech impediment that makes me sound like I'm foreign.
Oh, I see. It does. You sound Eastern European.
Thank you. Well,
I'd probably just, if I look, be you and live your best beautiful self, Andrew. Growing up, I would have just said I was Swedish. No one knows what they actually sound like.
Yeah.
PewDiePie got famous then, though.
Nah. I couldn't do an impression. Couldn't tell you what PewDiePie sounds like right now. If I'd say he sounds like Andrew. All right, Andrew. What point are you wanting to make? You got a real life trans in front of you.
Yes, because I do not know why the transgender is particularly important. Because I looked at the numbers and
Andrew, you are breaking out completely. We have no ability to understand what you're saying because your audio is still low and you're cutting out.
Yes, there are about as many trans people as there are Kazakhs in the United States, but we do not hear much about the Kazakhs. And
thank goodness.
Kazakhs, and they have, right, and they have about as complex and important issues as trans people. So I don't know why trans people are such an important issue.
We don't never hear about them. We did hear about them when Sacha Baron Cohen did a racist depiction of them for 2 movies, and we all loved it. That's one of those things you look back once you realize they're an anti-Arab piece of shit. Anyway, go on.
Right. Yes. So I think that the trans issue should get much less attention than it does, and it should be really taken on a case-by-case basis in most localities, with the voters in each locality deciding what they want to
Couldn't
do
disagree
about
more.
many issues related to the transgender people.
When we're talking
if
about
my
civil rights
depend
issues,
on my zip code, I don't really have rights then, do I?
Yeah, that's crazy. So we're talking civil rights. It should not be, despite what he said, everybody wants it at the states. Nobody, that's, the people who want it at the states are the people who want options to go live in super bigoted communities.
Yeah, Andrew, it cost me like $7,000 to move from Kansas to Oregon so that I would have rights.
Well, some Kazakhs could say the same thing, but what I'm saying is that not.
Let's take care of the Kazakhs too, Andrew. Let's take care of the Kazakhs. My apologies. I don't know if I'm supposed to call you Kazakhs. Maybe it's Kazakhstanians. I don't know. So, but the caller is saying Kazakhs.
Yeah.
I don't know what's okay.
But let me tell you, since you're not only talking about the trans issue, I'd love to talk about the UN, because this is an extremely important issue that not many people are talking about.
Do you know that it's going to be a point that we disagree on, or are you just wishing to opine and use our platform for a UN point you'd like to make?
No. I believe they'll disagree with this.
Great.
So
Go
very
ahead.
extreme, me and my. So let me tell you, the United Nations is really a truly terrible organization that has never really done any good. And is conceptually terrible, and is even today been doing lots of very poor things. We have to immediately take out the United Nations and replace it completely with an entirely new organization. I say 4, but yeah.
Okay.
You agree?
No, but I don't.
I just don't feel like
care.
you had a good enough like explanation for why for me to be able to rebut
Well, let me
anything that
tell
you've
you,
said.
Or find myself
because
caring
the world is
potentially.
different.
And I'm focusing on
I
how
used to-
often this accent is changing.
I used to be a world federalist, but I changed that recently because the world is very different. So one world organization cannot deal with all parts of the world. If we truly want effective international laws, we need 4 different organizations: one for Asia, one for the Commonwealth nations, one for America, and one for Africa.
Okay. Andrew, do you believe queer people should be allowed to get married? And he dropped.
Really? Wow.
Oh, well, that's fine.
I guess he was like, I just want to make my UN point and then GTFO.
I want 4
right.
one was the Commonwealth.
Yeah, the Commonwealth
America,
nations.
Asia, Africa, Commonwealth. And so I assume Europe and South America are in the Commonwealth. Where does Greenland go? Trump buys Greenland, obviously.
That's true. Yeah.
I
wanted to ask, like, if he thinks that a country as big as
let's
America
not
is
clip that
unsustainable.
one. Can you just take a note that one is not necessary to clip? Or I feel redistributing would just sexually thrill Andrew, and I don't want to. What were you saying, Lux?
I was just gonna ask him if he thought that the United States government should dissolve into smaller states because of how like unmanageable it is to have one central government for a country this large.
Yeah.
Oh well.
The Commonwealth. Go back to Finland. CJ
Finland
in
great
Texas.
again.
That's where I am. CJ, now wait, are you the CJ I know from Texas before? Do you actually go by Charlie?
No. I don't go by Charlie.
All right. CJ in Texas, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Just fine. Well, I've been asking people today, so may as well get it from you. It says, well, first of all, it says you're a black woman?
I am.
And how old are you, if you don't mind? You don't have to answer.
No, I don't mind. 47.
47 years young. Excellent.
Mhm.
And you want to talk about trans and race issues?
Yeah, whatever topic you throw out there, I'm ready to talk about it.
Well, generally,
Whatever you
we
wanna
allow
say.
the caller to decide what they oppose us on, because it's hard for me to figure out the menu of great many things I believe that you could oppose. So whichever one you feel ready for, you go for it.
Well, I guess I have a different. I'll say this: any MAGA point. So if you choose one, whether it's immigration or gender or transgender, whatever you want to talk, but you just throw one out there. I'm ready for it because I do have something to say about it.
Again, I would rather you pick the one you think you're the best at.
Ooh, okay. Well, let's talk about.
To be clear, when you say any
Well, let's
MAGA
talk
point,
about-
you are MAGA, correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
And you voted for Donald Trump in 2024?
I've voted for Donald Trump twice. Yes.
Oh, so also in 2020, I assume.
Mm-hmm.
And who'd you vote for in 16?
Let's talk about. I've always voted Republican. I'll say that probably since I could vote, and when I
So then
understood
16,
that,
you voted for Trump as well. So you voted 3 times for Trump.
correct.
Okay, you said twice, so I was just getting the correct thing. So you have
Well,
been
I mean,
a,
both times
you've
is
always been
definitely
a
the one
loyal, sorry, one more time?
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Always a loyal Trump supporter. Just out of curiosity, what part of Texas are you from? I'm like in the Austin area.
Outside of Houston, suburb outside of Houston. So Houston area, not too far from you.
Yeah. I've been there a couple of times. I have a friend who lives in Katy who I've gone and seen. All right. Well, good enough. So you wanted to talk about, sorry, did you already say which issue?
No, okay, let's talk about, I can talk about either transgender or immigration, either one. And I think I'm versed on both. At least I understand it with 47 years. So
Well, you
a lot
have a
of
real
them-
life trans person here.
Yeah, I'm trans.
Okay.
You want to talk about that?
Okay. Okay.
Go for it.
So, well, I do want to say that I don't have an issue with people being who they are. I'll say that because I don't want anyone to have an issue being who I am. I just want to know on both sides why I should have to identify with whatever it is that you want to be called. Similar to what you were saying to Andrew, and I'm not saying I understood what he was talking about all the way, but what is wrong with me saying the core values I want to be identified as a woman? Similar to when I called in, the lady's like, what is your pronoun? And I just said, I'm just a woman. I didn't really have a pronoun.
Did you get hung up on?
No.
Right. So you're a woman, that we presume that means she, her. It's not a trick question. It's people in the live chat are going to use pronouns because they're not going to say CJ every time. Maybe CJ wouldn't be so bad because at least it's just the 2 letters, right? But most people have a longer name. Pronouns are for shortening and everything. So it's not like a trick question. It's literally, we're a show that is trans accepting. So trans people do call in. It's not automatically given. By the way, I've known some men that you cannot tell are men on the phone who are cisgender. So the answer to your question is the same reason why we asked you. It's polite because you're saying, why should I have to? You don't have to. Just like CJ, I don't have to call you CJ, but I do because it's polite. It's kind. And there are certain things I could call you instead of CJ. I'm sure as a black woman, you've gotten plenty of them. That would be very rude to call you. Then there are other things that could be just an accident. I might accidentally say TJ or whatever, something that's happening fast and totally innocently. And I don't think you're going to feel equally angry if I call you TJ quickly by accident versus if I use something that's clearly, obviously, explicitly like a racist version of your name or a sexist version of your name. The answer isn't why do you have to? The answer is why you should. And it's because it's polite. It's kind. It's nice to live in a society where if I'm just walking out the door, my neighbors aren't going to address me in some way that's going to make me feel unsafe or shitty or humiliated. Especially, by the way, CJ, when you know that you live in a country that is dangerous for trans people to live in, and they already are afraid enough.
And I think that door was opened when it was allowed for gay marriage and the things like that, allowed for union. So people would have to recognize it, and some just don't agree with it because of.
In what way do you have to recognize? In what way do you have to recognize something that it's unfair? Like what penalty is going to happen if you don't respect? If I get married to a dude, what's going to happen to you if you go, I don't consider you married? I'm going to say, okay, that's rude and sucky and probably hypocritical. But are you going to go to jail?
No, not at all. I think I understand where you're coming from, though. And I probably needed to hear that. I don't think it's anyone that is like, and I think being black, I can't understand certain history levels where, again, people were prosecuted for potentially, let's say, even interracial marriages. I mean, that was a thing, too, right? 2 different races marrying, or a black race marrying a white race, or whatever the case may be. I can understand that. But I think that we're speaking as adults, though. When you're dealing with a lot of times these kids, and I have a child who was in school, and he had to say, this young lady wanted to go by another name, and they were just like, well, if they didn't call her by that name, they were in trouble. And I told my son, was like, well, I don't have a problem calling her whatever she wants to be called. But when she changed it, she kept changing it often. And I think I just didn't understand, like, so everyone has to kind of, if you want to address someone, you have to address it the way they want you to address it. When it's like,
CJ, you don't have free.
Do what we want?
CJ, you don't have free speech at school, and cisgender kids get the exact same. If a cisgender kid wants to switch to a different name, and the school is going to honor it, the school, that is the social way we do it. If I go in and I say, hey, I know I've been going by Tom, but now I want to go by Jerry. They're still both boy names. And generally the school is going to say, like, all right, let's honor that. Let's go ahead and take it. And if somebody instead of Jerry, my masculine name, starts calling me Bobby instead, which is still a masculine enough name, there's not as much going to happen besides somebody going, you're being pretty rude right now. But if instead he starts calling me Lindsay, meaning a more feminine name, unless you're Lindsey Graham, just kidding, he loves that, it's more feminine. But unless it's like, if it's a clearly like Mary would be a good one too. I know there's always exceptions, but he's calling me Mary because he's trying to go with a feminine name. Now we're getting to the level of bullying. So we're not asking for special exceptions. Yes, a trans kid is more likely to utilize that right, but cis kids have it too.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I don't believe in hurting somebody or bullying or making somebody feel something. So I guess I can agree on that. And I don't have any problem with people being who they are. I just think that, you know, even in an adult world, they want, it's like, well, you have to put a pronoun down. I was like, well, I just don't have a pronoun to give you. I'm Mrs. or Ms. You know, I don't quite understand. Why do I have to?
And if you're in their house or in their business, it may be the rule and you might get kicked out, but you're not going to go for prison for denying them that. And you're also not going to melt if you just give it to them. It's kind of like the pronoun thing is to me so funny because everybody's acting like they're in trouble. They're at risk of going to prison if they don't pronoun. And that's obviously not true. They can't point to a single law that that's the case. And then on the other side, it's like, okay, well, if you are in a space that asks for a pronoun, why go out of your way to reject it when it doesn't matter at all? Like, it's like, just say she, her. What are they going to, even if trans people didn't exist, those would still be your pronouns and it doesn't hurt anybody else and you don't get a rash, nothing. Like you've just participated in the same way that if I invite you into my house and the rule is take the shoes off in my house, and if you don't take your shoes off, I'd like you to leave. Just respect the house.
I understand that. And I think that makes sense. And I can actually go back to conversations that I had amongst other MAGAs, and I can kind of implore that. I think a lot of it feels like there has to be a defense or a side someone has to take. I can understand that it doesn't matter. I kind of want to say something about immigration because y'all made a valid point on that, and I respect that. I do. Can I say something about immigration? Fine if I do.
Yeah, Lux, did you have anything left on the trans issue? I'm afraid I stole it from the trans person.
I felt like we were about to go down a path of like the same conversation we had earlier about trans kids. If we want to skip it, then that's fine.
Sure.
Well, I mean, you know, I'll say this. I don't have a problem. My son said that his only argument, which growing up in knowing trans, you know, his roommate was like, I like guys, a male roommate, a biological male roommate. I'll just say that. And he said, I like guys and girls. But he's been dating girls. My son was like, I'm so frustrated with him. I said, why are you? He said, because if you like girls, then why are you going to get with a guy and hurt his feelings when you really like girls? And so he had to explain to him how he's like, I actually like both. And I like the fact that they're about the conversation versus people my age that are just like, this, is it right or not? You know, but they have it. His whole thing was his feelings were going to get hurt if he's really into girls. So I respect the conversation that the young people are having. My son said whether he agrees or not, he's going to respect his roommate because it doesn't affect him. It doesn't affect him in that way. He's still human. And I get that. So I can't say anything about trans and bi and gay and straight about that because if it doesn't affect me, then it's not a problem to me if it doesn't.
What would you do if it did affect you though? If you had a 13-year-old who came to you and said, like, I'm getting really distressed at what's happening to me right now because of puberty, because I think I might actually be, let's say they were male, assigned male at birth, and you thought you were raising a boy, and they came to you and they said, like, I've kind of learned some stuff, and I think that I've figured out that the reason why I'm getting so distressed and depressed about this is that I don't know that I'm actually a boy. I think I might be a girl. What would you say to that person? To your child?
I would tell my child that this is a safe space. I can't imagine what the trans community and the gay and lesbian community, LGBT, and all the communities are going through with people like breaking them off from families and can't go to functions and stuff. So I think that home should be a safe space. I do believe that.
But I think what I'm asking, CJ, is
about
would you then engage
reassignment
doctors
surgery, I don't
or
know.
church?
I probably would. What I would do first. Oh, that's a really tough one because you're talking about, right? Like this is a kid. I think I would try to get him in some kind of group of people that feel the way he does, and maybe I need to understand more about what it is he is going through, and maybe that part first. Then I would say therapy to see if it's something that we can do and put off to when I feel like he's maybe a little bit more able to make those decisions for himself. Like, I wouldn't want him, I start seeing about, and maybe I've been watching too much YouTube, like y'all, you know, maybe I've been watching too much stuff, but I hear about people deciding and changing their mind and going back, and it's like, perhaps there is a level of adulthood that needs to come with that. Maybe an adult needs to make that decision, right? Him being an adult can make the decision.
We would assume
final transition.
I love all that for the most part. If you take him to therapy and the therapist, let's say you go to the therapist for a year. Like, let's say they were 13 when we started and now we're age 14. You've been seeing a therapist for a whole year and the therapist says, yeah, no, we are totally confident in every way we can be that medicine would be an appropriate thing to do now. Would you go ahead and have that conversation with the primary care physician about like just getting a medication maybe that can pause puberty and give you 2 more years of decision making, and then by the time they're age 16, we can make a more firm decision? Do you think that your kid should have the opportunity to have that extra 2 years?
Yeah, if it's gonna help. You know, I don't want to deal with a child that's depressed or, you know, thinking about ending themselves or getting into this deep depression because the conflict is there. So it's like, what better way can I support you? Even if it means this community can support you better, you know, because
So do
I'm
you
not
disagree?
in that space.
I have so much respect for the approach that you have for this. So I want to ask you, do you agree with the way that MAGA and Project 2025 are getting in between families and their doctors in making that decision for their children? Like, do you think that it's wrong that MAGA wants to cancel all of this care for under 18?
No, I don't agree with that part of it. That part of it, I don't agree with. I think when I came into the conversation, and I'm actually speaking to intelligent people, and I didn't, not any insult, like meaning like you making it make sense. I don't agree with them cutting it off for them. I think that's isolating a whole lot of people, including like, and again, I can go back to being a Black woman. And I mean, if you understand, I was raised in Sugar Land. So if you understand Katie, then you understand these areas that were predominantly white. And I was the only Black child there, or the only Black in school. And I understand what isolation looks like, where people really didn't know. It's not that they hated me. I just looked different than they did. And they didn't know how to handle me or how to approach me. And it's a very scary situation. So I don't believe in cutting off funding for it. But I would definitely believe in some level of process. I think, is it to you guys, and maybe look, you can answer that, is it you believe it's a case-by-case basis? Do you believe that every situation is different? Do you not believe that there should be a process in place in general to support?
I mean, yeah. So the way that it's set up right now, there is a process. And I do think that maybe actually the bar is too high, that there are kids who do need this care who don't get it. But I agree that there needs to be some kind of system in place for under 18s. I think it makes sense the way that we do it now, where if we're trying to make sure we have as close to 100% accuracy as possible on this diagnosis, like, I don't think that's a bad thing to aim for, no matter what the medicine is. So yeah, I don't disagree that there should be a process for kids. And then for adults, I think you should just be able to walk into the doctor and say, I want this, and then they should just give it to you the same way that you walk in and get birth control.
Kelly, I hate to do this, but I'm like, I think we're just going to keep finding out that we're not as far apart. I'm just sitting here confused. What is the thing you are aligned with MAGA on? Because a person with, like, I understand we're only on one issue, but just the general way you approach and have a concept of empathy outside of what happens to other people other than just you and your close family is not usually compatible with the MAGA profile. So I'm what is appealing about MAGA to you?
Well, I think that, okay, so I'm not going to go into the whole religious thing. So let me talk about immigration. And from a personal standpoint, being that I think, I won't say that, but I think that blacks weren't necessarily immigrants. Like I would think that the slave system that happened wasn't, right? So I ended here. This was where my journey started, and probably where several of my ancestors started. So when we became legal, like legally able to vote, legally able to work, you know, and we had rights at that point. I'll say that. When blacks here did. I'm not going to blame anything on anyone. This is just a fact, right? And so we have to pay taxes and do everything you do. You too, both of you have to do. When we were talking about illegal immigration and people, I remember having a baby in the hospital and my bill was $50,000. I work for the hospital system. That's just how much it costs to have a baby. In 2003, or 2004, I'm sorry, 2004 is when I got the bill. And there's a 21-year-old now. We're talking about a 21-year-old. So I remember some of the people who did not have legal paperwork were able to just have babies for free. And they were having a conversation about it and saying, you know, I can have babies, which meant that the rest of us who wanted to plan families were like, well, nobody can afford that. And I thought that was so unfair.
I think what
CJ,
you're upset at is private insurance.
Right. CJ, who's the problem there? The people who got the free care or the system that didn't give you the free care? Because I would argue you should have both gotten the free care, not take it away from the person who got it because you didn't get it.
Well, the difference was they didn't have any legal documentation and they couldn't deny them a right to have a baby. What you can't just let them sit on the street and just
that doesn't matter.
What it was is we have to take them, but they couldn't build them. They couldn't tax them. So it was like they were living free.
But CJ,
that also happens with citizens.
Hang on, CJ, before you jump forward. Yeah, exactly. That's true of citizens also. What alternative would you have preferred? That she go dangerously have that baby on the street?
That you have proper paperwork and have the same level of citizenship.
No. But let's go with real life and what actually happened. On that day, what should the hospital have done differently? Okay,
well, obviously, they should have taken the person in, taken the female, the woman in, and have the baby, and did exactly what they were supposed to do. But
how did you even? By the way, I'm not denying that this happens. I don't know how you were aware of their documented status.
They were like, well, so I know the daughter. The daughter who, well, her mother, she was my age at the time. We were in our early 20s. The mother was pregnant. The mother had the baby. And because she's illegal, she was like, well, you know, she can continue to have babies. This baby, she wouldn't even worry about getting her paperwork. It's like, but I have to have my paperwork and I got a bill. I think that happens so often. And what it is it's and if it happens in masses, let me tell you something. If I go to your store and I just let me ask you something, Jimmy. If you have a store and I go in there and I take something from the store and you find out I was able to steal it successfully and you find out, well, I was just trying to feed my family. What's the difference between me going in there and stealing something to feed my family or going in there to steal something because I'm just a rebel and I don't give a crap about your store? What is the difference?
I mean, I do think that there's a different moral weight to that.
Yeah, CJ, the difference would be the morality. And CJ, it would be the exact same question I just asked you about the woman. The answer isn't penalize both equally. The answer is get rid of poverty. So the only people who need to steal are the assholes. And like get rid of the person who's stealing food in America. Where we have this much wealth that somebody's having to steal from a gas station. The problem isn't the thief in that. The problem is the fact that we live somewhere with this much wealth and someone would need to resort to theft to feed their family. So y'all get your way if you put my socialist utopia into effect, because then we're only getting rid of the bad thieves, the ones who are exploiting and trying to take more than others, the ones who are trying to exploit a health system that shouldn't.
But if you're not affected by it, if you're not affected by, like, there are people that go, you know what? I would love to have 4 and 5 kids. I know a lot of people that want to do family planning and all of this other stuff. You know what prevents them? The cost. Okay, yeah, the system's broken, the system in place, we should be free. But there are people
CJ, you can't say it with that voice like that wouldn't fix it.
They can just
CJ,
go
you
lay
shouldn't
up and have 100 million babies.
CJ, you just said the solution, but you used a voice that dismissed it. So fix it by not having them be undocumented. Right, legalize their status here, track them, have them participate with the rest of us. And by the way, be sure that that's really what's happening, because most people don't like being baby factories. Give them free access to birth control, as well as the hospitals and everything else, and put them in charge of maintaining their, like, being able to only have babies if they want to versus not. Make sure that they are protected away. One thing that same woman, as you're there lamenting that she would be able to just have children, she also laments that if she gets raped by somebody and is impregnated by that person, she doesn't have any recourse, because if she goes to the cops, that's going to end with her getting separated from her children. So it's not like it's all sunshine and daisies over there. It's hellish in a lot of ways to be an illegal immigrant. And as you're upset about benefits that they're taking from America, you're also ignoring the fact that they create more in both direct revenue as they pay taxes through TINs. They aren't admitting they are who they are, but they're injecting directly with tax money, and indirectly with the amount of money they add to our economy that is then additionally taxed. Immigrants give us more than they take. So you remove the imbalanced power, the imbalances in society and in our government that are fucking so many people over. So then if anybody is still exploiting systems, it's basically negligible, and who gives a shit?
Well, I mean, as much as you live in the utopian world would work, but that's not where it's at. And
right, because you keep voting MAGA.
That's the thing.
No, it ain't.
Part of what we're trying to bring up, CJ. Part of what we're bringing up, CJ, is that, like, when there are situations where something unjust happens, like the situation you're describing, where, like, it's unjust that you were charged $50,000. I'm just going to say that it's fucked up that they charged you that much money to have a baby. That's crazy, right? Like, we agree that that's an injustice. I think the problem is that this, like, second other separate issue happened where somebody else didn't have to pay that you know of. Like, I don't know if she got a bill later, or if, like, what happened with that situation. We can't know per se unless you followed up on it, which, like, maybe it was free. That's also the case for a homeless person who's an American citizen who comes in with a broken arm or who has to have a baby. They also get to have health care, and it just is given to them for free. And the cost is balanced out by overcharging everybody else. But the thing that we're upset with is a fucked up healthcare system. But instead of you calling us and saying, I have a problem with the healthcare system, you're calling us to say, I have a problem with immigration, when, like, that isn't the root problem. The root problem is somebody fucked you out of $50,000, or tried to, in any case. Like, maybe you filed for bankruptcy or whatever, but they tried to stick you with a bill that big. That's crazy. And the fact that we end up talking about illegal immigration instead of that is why we cannot solve the problem of exorbitant healthcare costs, right? Like, I agree that, like, people should have an easy way of becoming a citizen. We shouldn't make it this difficult. We should give people the paperwork, make it official. Let's do it. Make it much easier for us to collect their taxes and everything. And at the same time, like, let's work on making healthcare more accessible. Right now, MAGA, the government shutdown is primarily because they want to take away the healthcare subsidies that have allowed millions of Americans to get healthcare who otherwise would just not have health insurance. So they're holding that hostage. So if anything, like, I feel like more and more and more MAGA people should be realizing how much that, like, system that you're supporting personally disdains you. And especially you as a Black woman, like, you have got to know that they don't want you in their group. Like, they don't want you around. They don't want me around. And we are not going to get any of the things
and your support, but not your companionship.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
we
and
as
I can,
people are
and I
not
can
going to get the things
understand
that
that.
we need by asking them for it.
And
They're not going to give us the health care.
Well, I tell you what, I was all on board with Hillary for a while, but I will say this: I think that you make a good point, but I just what I felt like was happening during the election time for me was that it was those who believed in God and those who didn't. And that's why I so was like, well, I'm going to stick with some core values. I don't necessarily agree with some of the stuff going on. I didn't like it. And I felt like, in my eyes, I felt more supported on the conservative side because I felt like, well, at least they're going to stand for something here. And maybe the gripes I had were more personal, right? And maybe the things I had. But now that we're talking about it, I'm going to have to reevaluate a whole lot of things, and I'm kind of frustrated about my vote. So I don't even know what this whole thing was about because I was ready to tear in and be like, you know what, y'all tripping. And now I'm over here like, well, dang. So I'm like, well, dang, I need to put the flag on. So I don't even know what the deal is. So anyway, thank y'all for your time.
Here's the thing that's crazy about that, CJ. Before you go, I've one last thought then. The thing that's crazy about that, CJ, is I'm an atheist now. I grew up on the Bible. I know it pretty well. Arguably, my political positions are the most like what Jesus Christ says in the New Testament than they've ever been, right? Like, I don't believe in any of the mystical stuff, but like feeding the poor or feeding the hungry, clothing the poor, like taking care of everybody as a baseline. Jesus did not like rich people. Jesus is explicitly anti-rich. But you wouldn't believe that when you see the evangelical stuff. Bernie Sanders, of the political people who have been, and I'm not even a full Bernie guy anymore anyway. He was an important part of my, maybe you'll call it radicalization, but Bernie is to the right of me even. Bernie Sanders is the closest to a primary candidate to a Jesus Christ-like platform of anybody in like almost the last century who actually made it to primary competitiveness. The thing the Republicans have done is they have monopolized on the evangelical vote over a couple of issues that actually even those you can't biblically justify. You can't biblically justify no marriage for queer people. You can't justify, make sex work illegal. You can't, his best friend was a hooker. You can't justify no abortion even. There's examples of abortion in the Bible, and God killed firstborns when he was cranky. Like it is the whole level of, but also you don't even have to be pro-abortion and technically vote Democrat. Trust me, I wish people more were, and we can talk about those another time. So CJ, I guess what I'd ask you is like, we'll have more conversations between now and then, but whoever runs in 2028, I feel for sure I'm still going to be doing call-in shows. And if you're planning to vote for the Republican on that because you think their policies align better, will you call me and I'm not going to, obviously there's going to be a little bit of if I think they're better or not, but I want to point out whether or not they actually are as aligned with your values as you think they are. And I want to have that evaluation with you. Would you, if you don't mind, I'd love to at least make a plan to try and have that conversation when the next presidential election, if it ever happens.
I absolutely will, because I'm over here really tripped out. Because I'm telling you, I was on the line, and I was like, okay, we're not gonna. So I absolutely will. I really do think what y'all doing is good, and having this conversation, and it opens up the minds of people who are like closed off, who've dealt with discrimination and things like that. It just kind of put me on when you said, hey, they really, really just want your vote. They really don't want you, and that made a lot of sense to me because I can see how I just have personal gripes that can be resolved with certain changes anyways. And maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I don't have a reason to be affected by any of that stuff. So if I don't like it, I don't have to deal with it. So I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me, both you and Lux.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
What a wholesome note I got tingles.
Yeah.
What a wholesome note to end that on. I feel like, just so everybody knows, this will be the show I point to that's proof I don't just yell at everybody I disagree with. We had like multiple solid calls that I wasn't provoked. Andrew almost knocked me out of it.
Yeah. I feel like we moved the needle for two of our callers today. I'm like, okay, we acknowledge that like we should care about trans kids. Okay, cool, we got there, and like we may have just shook that lady's whole world. I hope she comes out on the other side of it. Okay.
I really hope. I mean, other calls between now and then, notwithstanding, those are great too. But I hope there's a call on November, whatever date it's going to be, somewhere in the first week of November, leading up to the election in 2028. Again, should such an event occur.
We'll find out in 2026.
Fully. The other day, I think it was JD Vance got on a new chat. Hey, we'll read super chats out, people. If you want to go ahead and send super chats, we'll end the show with that.
Yeah.
But what was it? JD Vance got on. I almost called him CJ Vance. JD Vance was like, by the way, we've like, or no, it was Mike Johnson. We're going to win the midterms big, but we also have to win the midterms big, because if they win, they're going to impeach Donald Trump. And I just watched that and I was like, do you promise? Do you promise they will? Because I don't believe you. If I believed you, I would say that's enough to get my vote enthusiastically back. But I don't believe you. So we'll see. Can you go into the layers of this one, Luthien, and just get rid of the phone number banner down there? If you just go to the little gear icon and hit layers, one of them will be that layer, and just hit the check mark next to it. We don't need the phone number up right now. Let's see if she finds it okay.
I thought we were going to do a full 3 hours. I was so ready.
Yeah, I also thought those last 3 calls were going to be a lot more, you know, I thought we'd be more. Perfectly Flawed said, had a meeting, so came back, finished Takis at 2.5 speed, and now Jimmy sounds like he's speaking whale. Yeah, I have the same problem. I watch everything on higher speeds, so everybody sounds drunk all the time. In real life sometimes. Next one. Oh, if you'll send me the IP address, I can manage sending them through. If you'll send me the IP address to the VMix Social on Discord, I can do that. Go ahead. Do you want to read this one?
Yeah, thank you for the 10 units from Barbara Barrett, who says, I was sent to conversion therapy when I was 13. It really fucked me up, and it didn't work. I ended up transitioning at age 30. Yeah, shit doesn't work.
It's like
it works to traumatize people.
We don't, for some reason, learn lessons from, like, we already knew. It's so frustrating, too, because at the end of the day, I want to be able to focus less on explaining to people the difference between queer, like gay issues and trans issues, because so many people push them together. But then fundamentally, like every single argument they have, they were making about gay people 10, 20 years ago, and they were making about black people 40, 50 years ago. Like these are all recycled points over, like it's just, y'all know we did have a discussion about whether black people belonged in sports in this country, right? This isn't new. Y'all know, right? It's just crazy. Anyway. Yeah, if you'll still add new ones, I'll work on, I'll send the chats. Josh Everett says, be emotional. Humans are emotional. Being dispassionate in and of itself does not automatically make your thinking correct. Even if we had a benevolent AI for a leader, you would have to program into it emotional considerations. It wouldn't have to be emotional, but you would have to teach it to understand the emotional impacts of the decisions it could make. So,
totally. That's part of well-being.
Emotion's allowed to remain, but you can't win on emotion alone.
Thank you for $10 from Perfectly Flawed, who says, will $10 be enough to get Andrew's name to Floppy Titty McGee?
You know what?
Sometimes that happens.
Did say that would have been okay, but I feel like there's still some hypocrisy there, because internally we would know he's just saying it to get the point, even though it would bug him.
Yeah.
Ashley says, my contribution to the change Andrew's name to Floppy Titties McGee Fund.
10 from Fuzzy Logic says, union rep here. Jimmy's hypothetical does in fact happen all the time, the sexual harassment example. And oftentimes a legal claim is the only way to get access to the emails and internal documents that prove it. Yeah.
Boom.
Just rejecting the idea of a sexual harassment claim. I think like the specific details you were giving was what he was taking issue with, rather than like, of course, like rather than accepting your overall premise.
Which is crazy, because I feel like that just means he's never worked in a place before, because certainly there are like, look, I've worked at places where I've had relationships with people who worked there that were consent not present. It would have been sexual harassment. We were all enthusiastically, but we hadn't had better. Nowadays, if I know what I know now, went back in time, those relationships would have probably still happened, but better conversations about establishing consent and what's appropriate at work and stuff like would have changed. But while we all like, I don't even know how to put it. It's like Tinder. We all know people are fucking at work, and we all know people are fucking on Tinder. We all know people see Tinder as a place to meet people to fuck. And we all know that even if you don't think work is a place to fuck, it's like where 1/3, I think, of people meet their partners, right? So power imbalances, if it's your boss and stuff, all those kinds of things you do have to consider as their exploitation, all of that shit. And you shouldn't presume, but it's not going to. Anybody who thinks the practical advice is no one should ever date somebody from work is crazy. So since we recognize that this is where people are doing these things, it's easy to think about Tinder and go, okay, there's lots of abuse on Tinder because people who feel entitled to other people, and we'll pretend it's equal. I'll say when a man or a woman feels entitled to the other sex or gender, when you and I both know it's 95% one way. But anyway, a certain amount of toxic harassment bullshit happens. So of course it's happening at work too. So I don't know how anybody can pretend things of this level of extreme happen, because it's actually worse than that. It is still happening. I'm not going to say it directly, but until you figure out what I'm saying is blow me for the promotion, you're going to find you don't get the promotion, right? Like that shit is happening. And then explicitly, like, I feel untouchable. It's always going to be your word against mine. I've already gaslit you into feeling like things are your fault. And I've already primed everybody around to assume that you're lying. So now I'm just going to explicitly tell you, blow me for the promotion or fuck off. Like it does, rarer, I hope, but that level happens too. But like, of the like range of things that happen, the example I gave wasn't even it's still in the common zone.
Pretty normal. Yeah.
Right. Just a man who thinks that like I got away with a kind of sexual flirty thing one day, heightening, recognizing their power. I can literally think of an employee I knew at Verizon who was this way, who basically would brag like, dude, my commissions and sales are so high, they will never get rid of me. It was just crazy that he thought that this was like a wild hypothetical, when I'm like, there's probably someone watching right now who's like, is Jimmy reading my diary? The fuck? Anyway. Truly.
Thank you for 7 Canadian units from Megan Manita. Nice, it's a mushroom, who says Team Floppy Tita McGee. Intrude is what somehow Indeed and something else got spliced into. That was fun. True and Indeed. That's what happened.
I believe we established last night that those are California units now. Or Tuesday night.
Oh, true. Yeah. California.
Yeah.
It's happened
Hank
multiple times.
If I was stupid and repellent as Andrew, I also wouldn't care if I had a girlfriend. Here's the thing. Do I know this for a fact? No. Do I feel like I know it for a fact? Yes. Andrew does care. He doesn't have a girlfend.
I'm pretty sure he's an incel. Yeah.
Yes. Andrew, this isn't my only exposure to him. Andrew is what's the word for incel pilled? It's not actually incel, but it's not just red pilled. Red pilled is like Elon Musk is red pilled, but he's getting laid.
Black pilled?
Black pilled is more like, isn't that more like accelerationist nihilism and misogyny?
I mean, it also fits in with the incel community of like taking the black pill within the incel community specifically is like, you're never gonna get a girl, so give up. Like, just give up on the whole concept, which he is. He's like, I don't want to date. I think women are evil.
Yeah, you're probably right. Black pilled probably is what I was searching for. I don't know that there's a better one than that, rather, but black pilled feels like black pilled people can usually, they're articulating the same arguments, but they at least have a script ready to go. And Andrew is winging it in a way that just makes them look even more redacted.
Sure.
Arcane Goat says, Andrew. Oh, wait. I think I also just skipped from Misha, who said, Andrew, people are paying to not hear you anymore, but to hear you talk anymore, bud.
True.
Yeah. We don't, especially on a lot of shows, we can't really do super chats at the end when we have hard stops. So we have to be clever with it to make sure that we can pay the bills.
Indeed.
Darren, I actually just saw we're getting low on literally like right after this call. I have to put at least $500 into our call system fund again. And that is happening way more often now. Granted, we're doing more shows, but it's like, it feels, and they only do a 10%. If you put in at least $500, you get a 10% bonus. And I'm like, can I buy more and get a bigger bonus? Like they cap it at 10%. Your 500 becomes 550. And I'm just like, if we're doing this 24 times a year and it's at least that, that's how, by the way, people, if you didn't know, our call system is we have to spend 5 figures on our call system every year because we have to pay per minute for each connection. So that's the screener's connection, our host connection, and then everybody on hold. And that's a significant portion of what your super chats pay for, as well as like food, which I can't have many of. And yet the foods I can have, I insist on eating every day. It's crazy. Anyway,
autistic safe food.
I don't even know why.
Thank you for the 5 Australian from Darren McAuliffe. Yeah, who says $5 for Lex's hair. Also end the call if you want. Still for Andrew. Yeah, my hair is looking really fucking cute today.
Okay, I don't want to encourage this, but my conscience 616 said my account is negative. That's how much Andrew sucks. Please don't go into debt to be super chatting. If I could refund a super chat, if YouTube had to like cancel this, don't let it through, I literally would, but that's not a system that exists. No going into debt for next time. Just say like, hey guys, my account's out. Can someone super chat on my behalf? It's killing me.
Yeah, someone will do it for you.
Forrest apparently tuned into the show as I was saying. Forrest is calling me and he's like, yeah, I just saw that. Also, the emoji made you look more autistic. So when I said I used the emoji, I don't know if you were here for that part. He was calling me right at the beginning and I was reading out what I was saying to him. And I was like, and I'll add an emoji so that it adds emotion and doesn't make me sound autistic. And anyway, it didn't work. It didn't work. Actually, that's ableist. Cancel him. This one's yours to read.
$5 from Random Hero Guy says, I got 5 on it for the boot. True. Appreciate y'all. I know y'all are sick of Andrew. I'm sorry. We keep taking his calls.
The fuzzy logic, I've tried contacting the sales rep and they do but they basically are like, oh, maybe you need to email this person. I probably should again. There was years ago there, and they're still going at it. There's a company that was making a different system that we were going to switch to, and they made all these promises and they knew Call In Studio was their number one thing. And we might still switch to them if their overall setup is better. But basically the closer and closer they've gotten to release, the more they've been like, actually, we can't really do it better than like cheaper than they can. It turns out their costs aren't as far off from what you have to charge and shit. Or maybe they just don't want to. It's like, if they can get it, all we have to be is prettier. But I thought 3 years ago we were months away from changing systems, and that's how long this thing has taken to get out of like not even quite beta stage. It's honestly feels more like an alpha. Anyway,
bummer.
Did you already say this one?
Yeah.
Cool. Luis Morales says, by the way, we're almost out of chat. So if you wanted any more chats before we get out of here, you can do so now. Somebody super chats $50 with lyrics for the final song that are obviously not offensive, and you're not going to trick me into saying a slur, but you can write the lyrics for the closing song if you like. All right. Luis Morales says, Andrew is a terribly horrible, no good, very bad boy. Also, I've rarely seen someone try this hard to be that obviously stupid. I think for him, it's effortless. In a way, his truest talent.
Fair enough. Thank you for $10 from Sydney, who says, Andrew can't get a woman because he is too busy looking silly on these phone calls every night. Truly, work on your Riz like for a minute, and then maybe you'd be more successful.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a way to end your loneliness epidemic. It will require less Warzone. And the brain rot you're getting from talking to the people who you're playing Warzone with. Barbara Barrett says 10 for the boot. I feel like I gave you all a promise and probably took too long to fulfill it. I'm sorry if he was on for more than 2 minutes past you when y'all gave me the 50.
It's true.
I think it was that would have been the goal, but I might have gotten distracted.
I think we were not paying attention. Yeah. Thank you for 5 Australian from Misha A, who says Andrew's got to have some kind of humiliation kink at this point because he keeps calling in. I am not sure what his deal is. Like, there are some repeat callers where I'm like, I feel like I understand. Like, we had a repeat caller on Takis who revealed that he had OCD. And after going over it with like for 2 months with this guy repeatedly, I was like, actually, I think what is happening here is we are reinforcing whatever kind of obsessive thing that you have about trans people. And we stopped taking his calls because I was like, we are just reinforcing your anxiety about it.
We've stopped with some callers just getting too much co-host syndrome too, where they're like,
talking too much. Yeah.
Thursday. This is the day I call into Takis. So I've already decided to call. What topic am I going to? And it's kind of like all you did was enough to come up with a topic that qualifies. It's not something you're particularly attached to. It's not like it's important to you that y'all talk about it, but
Matthew. It was Matthew. I forgot.
Aliashana Silverbow says, I'm sure glad the cis man is dominating this conversation on trans people. If only there was a trans person hosting right now. Team Mitternacht, whatever that means.
My cat.
Well, that's what the trans movement needs.
Exactly. You need a beard.
Guy. Do you want to scold me? You can. The opportunity, they paid $5 to invite you to scold me.
How dare you speak over me and my experiences? I'm going to quit my job now.
You should.
Yeah.
Whoever runs this channel should fire Jimmy Snow. $10 from Kim. Hey Jimmy, haven't super chatted in a while, but I'm so glad you've been more active. It's been great seeing / hearing you. Also, bless you for calling Andrew out on his bullshit. So very satisfying. Well, thank you, Kim. Yeah, I've been enjoying it too. It definitely required getting physically healthier. I didn't know how much that was the reason I was trying to quit hosting, but it was. I don't now like being back. I still hate being a public figure, but I like this part of it.
You like arguing with people, so you'll tolerate being a public figure.
Yeah. I like feeling like I'm getting, it's one of those things where it's like, imagine if you were an artist, but you hated it when people looked at your art, but you also liked that they were consuming your art. Like it would destroy you to not, that's a terrible metaphor. I would hate to stop being heard and feeling like I was doing something meaningful. But I haven't figured out how to do that by whittling yet. So here we are. But if I can do that whittling, you'd never see me again.
Is this for me to read? I can't remember. Yeah, $5 from Joshua Everett, who says, spoiler, Jimmy is reading your diary. True, he's clairvoyant.
Oh, I just saw the profile. Kim, hi also. Kim's, yeah. Kim's cool. Ex-Jehovah's Witness. Oh. Kim's cool. Yeah. Nice. I think I also saw, I don't know if you're still in there, but I won't say your last name if that wasn't intentional, but Kelly, if you're still watching, I'm pretty sure you're the Kelly from my past, based on what your username also was on YouTube. And it was good to see you. I hope things are well. Barbara said, I should clarify that I was 13 in 1967.
Mad respect?
Yeah, you should. I think you should. I don't remember why that is, but I can't remember things Barbara says I was sent to conversion therapy when 13 previously. So referring
back
to
in
letting people know when that was. Yeah. Yep. Tyler says, Jimmy, please keep doing what you're doing, spreading truth in a political climate where it is increasingly hard to come by. And yes, Luxander, your hair does look cute. It's pretty good. I used to do it. Yeah. I don't know did you undercut?
So I am shaved on both sides.
Okay.
Yeah.
I used to clip down my sides. And so I could do a similar kind of, but I never had the audacity to shave down. Plus, I just had a sketch idea that I think I'm going to try and do. It would be a sketch series. I'll tell you after the show. I don't want to spoil it. Someone will definitely steal it. I was surprised this hasn't already been done. But it's important that I keep looking like Jesus for that.
That's fair.
Yeah. All right, I think this one's yours to read.
Thank you for the 5 units from Puggles, who gives us a heart. Thank you.
Well, Microbe, I don't know if you made this. It's $50, so I said it would be the ending lyrics. Atheist Mechanic just wrote, sending in for Science and Logic, funny ass call. That is from the other show, yeah. Science and Logic, people. That's the evidence, but don't ask for more than those 3 words. I said $50 would be, for Microbe Masochist, would be our last, would be the lyrics to our closing song. So this is going to sound very self-relating, but so is everything else I do. So here we go. This show restored some faith in humanity, ignoring Andrew. Keep doing what you do. And the thing we do, go ahead and fade to black. The thing we do is call in shows with people that we find frustrating. But we're gonna see you all again on Sunday when Jovan and I do the call thing again. Please watch the clips. Thank you, Microbe Masochist. Oh shit, more super chats are coming in, so I guess I'll read them while I'm singing. Was really enjoying the host handling of Andrew, says Alex S. Very well done and great show. Hashtag Science and Logic. Misha says bonus super chat to appreciate the double undercut from Luxander, but not the double undercutting of all the calls that Jimmy kept doing by never shutting the fuck up. Respectfully appreciating the great hair, that middle lyric I added. Okay, bye.